This is Audacity, Seraph Series Book 1, written by Elodie Hart, narrated by Shane East and Zara Hampton-Brown.
Dedication. Dear reader, you survived alchemy. Now buckle up. Content advisory. Audacity paints a picture of sex work that's less rose-hued than bubblegum pink. This is deliberate. It's a fantasy, an exploration of a particular kink through the lens of a woman with a significant amount of agency. It is absolutely not a commentary on the horrific indignities and dangers sex workers face every day in the real world. If that doesn't sit well with you, please proceed with caution. This book also contains light bondage, roleplay, sacrilege, and some group activity before Gabe and Athena find their monogamous HEA. Prologue. Athena. Moments of note don't always feel noteworthy. So when a woman whose poise, whose elegance would be noteworthy, if we were in any city other than Paris, presses upon me a fresh flute of champagne, this moment of my fingers closing around its weighty crystal as my eyes meet hers offers little more than a mild flicker of curiosity. My first guess, or assumption more accurately, is that she wants me. This I'm used to, from both men and women. Apparently, I give off carnal vibes, even when I'm at my most sedate and polished, especially when I'm at my most sedate and polished. She's eyeing me with a combination of approval and pleasure. It's a she'll do nicely look. Vous êtes anglaise? She asks me. Her accent is decent, but there's an unmistakable British roundness to the vowels of her vous that gives her away. I get it. It's hard for us Brits to relearn the actual linguistics that will allow us to form authentic French vowels. I suppose she, like most people, prioritizes the ability to speak fluently and accurately over the sheer joy of one's mouth speaking the words as they are meant to be spoken. I am. I leave it there. She'll tell me what she wants from me soon enough. I thought so. You're a perfect English rose. She has a cut-glass accent, but it's a trite phrase, and one I've heard 1,000 times before. To her credit, she doesn't try to dress it up as anything more impressive than a mere matter of fact. I am, apparently, an English rose. People have catalogued me as such all my life, although if I pressed them on the data points that make up that category, I'm sure they'd fumble. One man even told me I looked like a Rossetti painting, which I frankly found offensive. His muses had decidedly horsey jaws, not attractive. No, I'd rather bask in the heady warmth of being compared to one of Sargent's ethereal subjects in all their doe-eyed, pale-skinned, rosy-lipped glory. Some of them, like the beautiful Duchess of Portland, even have a beguiling pink flush on their cheeks, almost as if the painter burrowed under all that lustrous oyster-coloured satin to seek out their most intimate parts and made them climax on his fingers for the sole purpose of capturing that shameful, intimate bloom on their skin. I've got myself off to that fantasy before. This is also one of my working theories on why people have carnal reactions to me. I look like someone, or something, pristine, that they want to violate, to overpower, to smash. I shrug at this immaculate woman's underwhelming descriptor. There isn't much to say when someone simply states facts at you. She holds out her hand, her pose at the correct end of the jutting/languid spectrum. Nobody likes a languidly extended hand. I'm Camille St. John. Camille? Maybe she has a French mother. She really should work harder on those vowels. There's no excuse for sloppiness. Athena. I shake. I don't see a reason why I should offer her my surname at this point. That she gave hers freely is not my problem. She smiles then, and it's a fierce, unguarded smile. It makes her far more likable.
God, I love that.
Thank you, I say, quietly amused. Her eyes dart over my face. I suspect the meekness of my countenance and the unavoidable connotations of my name strike her as incongruous. Goddess of handicrafts, do you crochet? Athena, goddess of war, of wisdom, lauded for her resourcefulness, for her lack of promiscuity. If ever a female-presenting Greek deity was not to be trifled with, it was Athena. And this woman chose fucking handicrafts. Interesting that you went there. Do I look like I crochet? You do not. It felt less invasive than asking you outright if you were a virgin goddess, although the goddess part is indisputable. I was right. She wants me. I don't usually do women, but she's undeniably magnetic. Her dark hair sleekly center-parted in a way that would look overly severe on someone who didn't have her bone structure, or her skin, or her ability to perfect a velvety scarlet lip. Again, do I look like a virgin to you? She doesn't answer immediately, instead taking a sip of her champagne. She allows herself to study me. I know what she'll see. My Miu Miu dress is sleek and black and tasteful, hinting at my assets, rather than serving them up on a silver platter. My stockings are black and sheer. My Valentino heels are elegant. My Van Cleef bracelet and earring set, a gift from my parents, an understated addition. I look like I could fit in anywhere and conduct myself with exquisite social propriety and never, ever disgrace myself unless, or until, the right person dragged me into a store cupboard or a disabled loo and put his hand around my throat and forced me to my knees. Then I could disgrace myself with aplomb. You look, she says, lowering her glass as she continues to survey me, like you are not a virgin countless times over, and like every single man whose path you cross wishes you were, with a fervency that takes his breath away. That earns her a smile. Tonight's pleasant soirée, in the spectacular surroundings of the Musée Rodin, comes courtesy of Swiss bank Loeb, who's hired the place out at no small cost to woo the creme de la creme of the Sorbonne's current MBA class. Alas, it's too cold to avail of the pristinely manicured gardens, but I've enjoyed them plenty of times before. The museum is a favorite of consultancy firms and investment banks, looking to put on an uncompromising display of the wealth, the luxury that awaits us, if only we choose to sign our lives away to them. This woman, Camille, is, I assume, part of the Loeb delegation. She's probably flown in from London or Zurich or Geneva to have a crack at us. She looks just as much at home here as I feel. When you've grown up in the embassies of Europe, polished floors and gleaming crystal, and sparkling conversation that goes precisely nowhere, are second nature to you. I'm less interested in working for Loeb, or any other bank for that matter, than willing to consider it. Really, I want to end up in industry. I want to call the shots, not advise people on what shots to call, or help them to fund those shots. I put in a management consultant stint at Bain after finishing my degree a year early, and now that I have some consulting experience under my belt, it's time to pivot. That's what an MBA represents to most of my peers, the vehicle through which they can pivot to a new and equally grueling subsector of the finance industry. Investment banking is dull and rigidly, endlessly hierarchical, but there's no denying it gives you a solid grounding in the nuts and bolts of how companies work and how their financial systems run. I can put my head down for a year or two, if it means arming myself with the tools for a quick ascension elsewhere. As we size each other up, I take a moment to appreciate how sophisticated Camille looks, how poised against the backdrop of the museum foyer's iconic wrought iron staircase and monochrome floor. I nod at her shift dress, black and simple, just like mine. Celine, That's a Phoebe Philo, surely. She may not have a bona fide Parisian accent, but she certainly has the discernment of a local. Many a chic Parisienne will refuse to touch anything designed by the house's subsequent creative director, Elodie Slimane, staying loyal instead to its Philo-era vintage. She smiles, approving. You know your Celine. I'm impressed. I shrug self-deprecatingly. You can't see a Phoebe Philo piece and not recognize it. It's beautiful. And yet you want to bag a job at Loeb and bury yourself in a grey cubicle 20 hours a day. You're a better ambassador for Celine than you are for Loeb, I observe, taking a ladylike sip of my champagne. It's non-vintage, but decent, probably from one of the smaller grower vineyards. Her laugh is a tinkle. Oh, darling, I don't work for Loeb. This is surprising. Don't you? I leave the less polite question hanging. What the hell are you doing here, then? There. She glances around the throng of people before lowering her voice. They're a client of mine, but that's not why I'm here. Again, I stay silent. If she has an agenda, she'll push it. I work for an agency. We place people in very senior positions at firms like Loeb. Oh, she's a recruitment consultant. A necessary evil in this world, but horrific all the same. I smile politely. C-suite executives, you mean? CEOs, CFOs, COOs, all roles far too senior to be appropriate for MBA students. Executive assistants. She watches me as she says it. It takes all my experience of working diplomatic circles not to sneer. If she's sniffing around the soon-to-be graduates of one of Europe's finest business schools, she's wasting her time. This crowd may be a little overeducated. I swallow the word before I can say it, because it smacks of intellectual snobbery. She raises a shapely eyebrow. Overqualified? I smile, shrug again. Or expensive, or greedy. She casts her eye around the room again. I wonder what they'd say if they knew that almost all of our candidates place with a 7-figure annual package. Now she really has my attention, because that is ridiculous. I ask the only question I can. How? Who the hell pays that to someone who books their travel and compiles meeting notes? She takes an almost indiscernible step towards me. I could tell you so much more over a cocktail if you signed some paperwork first. We take our clients' and candidates' confidentiality incredibly seriously. But I will divulge this much. The agency I run is called Seraph, and the women, and currently it is only women, whom we place have access to the most powerful men in industry. These women are full-service executive assistants. My lips part involuntarily, her meaning landing with me even before she articulates it further. Our EAs are all MBA-level qualified, from top schools only, and they bring a whole host of value to their employers in the C-suite, and also in the bedroom. There's a pull deep in my core. It's instantaneous. This vision she's conjured up in a single sentence, it's intoxicating. A whole host of value in the bedroom. These are busy men, Athena, she continues. They need a turnkey solution, if you like. They have profound appetites and refined tastes and exacting standards. They need an assistant who is the absolute best of the best at everything she does. Someone whose intellect matches theirs, who can anticipate and meet every need they have. She pauses, nodding at me meaningfully. Someone like you. And they are happy to reward that very, very fully, financially, of course. And with an extraordinary level of access. You're a madam, I say under my breath. somehow, it's not a shock. I'm a feminist, and the man who owns this company, an extremely influential power player, is a feminist too. Women are still locked out of so many positions of power. There's so much back-channeling, so many old boys' networks that play out on golf courses from Augusta to St. Andrews. But we have advantages that they don't have, and it's my mission both to facilitate the maximizing of those advantages and to ensure that my candidates are exquisitely remunerated in return. With a tilt of her head, she delivers the closing shot of her pitch. Imagine the access that a certain level of intimacy delivers. Imagine having the ear of the most powerful decision-maker at any company, because what you give him in your uniquely positioned capacity goes far, far beyond what anyone else, even his closest management team members, can dream of.
Part 1. Introitus. Entrance. Chapter 1. Gabe. There is no cocktail of emotions, quite like the one that assaults you when you wake suddenly, violently, to find yourself stark bollock naked in front of a woman who has categorically not chosen to share this experience with you. Horror, humiliation, vulnerability, shame. They all come for me with the adrenaline delivery of an EpiPen, while the twin shocks of full wattage lights and female shrieking have me sitting up on the bed with the gasping drama of a seemingly dead TV villain suddenly come back to life. She screams in a heavy Eastern European accent.
Oh no, I'm sorry, mister. I'm sorry. I think it was empty.
Fuck, I mutter, cupping my junk on instinct with one hand as I use the other to shield my eyes against the sudden glare. Where the fuck are my trousers? I glance blindly around the area of floor beside the bed, my eyes landing not on my clothes, as I hoped, but on a used and knotted condom. Excruciating. I'm so sorry, I mutter on repeat with a grating British obsequiousness more suited to pushing past people on a tube escalator than inadvertently flashing someone who is almost certainly not paid enough to deal with this shit. My mouth is parched. I must have been snoring, because the dehydration is definitely not from alcohol. This sex club, Alchemy, has a 2-drink limit to protect everyone who partakes in its delights. Clearly, the only parties not protected from unwanted advances are its poor cleaning staff. I'll be out of your hair in just a moment, I insist, wedging a pillow in front of my dick and using my free hand to bear my weight as I peer plaintively over the other side of the bed. This is ridiculous. I feel like I'm starring in an X-rated version of Mr. Bean. I'm a 36-year-old man who is now responsible for hundreds of staff members and billions of pounds of assets. It's about time I started acting like it.
I leave you,
she insists even more forcefully, backing out of the doorway and shutting the door with a firm click. Heavenly Father, what the hell am I doing? I collapse on the bed, flinging my forearm over my face to keep the dratted overhead lights out of my eyes. She left them on. Smart woman. Probably knew I'd pass straight back out if she turned them off again. At least there's no sign of the person I fucked earlier this evening. Waking up with her would have been arguably more horrifying than waking up to a traumatized cleaner, especially because I no longer recall her name. My fuck, that is. Wait, did I finish? I did, didn't I? The low-grade chafing of my dick confirms for me that no, I did not fall asleep on the job, and I remember that yes, I did indeed acquit myself with honours before I passed out. She liked it when I got her on her hands and knees. She really liked it. I summoned the energy to move my arm and drag my hand down over my face. If forsaking one's vows and leaving the priesthood to assume the management of 8 billion crisp British pounds of assets was a common enough occurrence to warrant being a cliché, I would indeed be a cliché. As it is, I'm simply a laughingstock. I'm also stiff, not in a good way, and fucking freezing. These beds have satin-fitted sheets but no actual coverings, an attempt to prevent dipshits like me getting too comfortable, presumably. I groan aloud and haul myself off the bed. A glance at my watch tells me it's just after 4 in the morning. I am a joke. The winter sun is a small comfort, I suppose. It's streaming through the windows of my office, hitting my monitor in exactly the wrong place, but I welcome it. I ended up coming straight into the office when I left Alchemy this morning. God knows I needed a shower, but I wasn't about to use the room's ensuite when the poor cleaners were waiting to purge the scene of my sins of the flesh. I have a large bathroom and shower here. It's useful when I jog into work, so I washed myself and proceeded to lie wakefully on the sofa opposite my desk for a couple of hours before yielding to the inevitable. I'd had my sleep for the night. My Alchemy membership was supposed to be a stopgap for me, an interim measure. My mate, Anton Wolfe, suggested it a few months ago, when I may as well have still been a priest. Casting aside my vow of poverty was inevitable for a man in my position, a necessary evil. Casting aside my vow of celibacy sat far less well with me, until it didn't. But much like the money and the whiskey and every other numbing technique I've abused since assuming this role, the blessed luster of my orgasms has faded, and now I simply feel grubby, shame-filled. It's not exactly a surprise. One of Christianity's foundational concepts is that base, fleeting pleasures will never bring the kind of everlasting peace and joy that spiritual pleasures do. Still, I find myself in some kind of joyless, vicious circle, where the overwhelm of this new version of my life necessitates constant, aggressive numbing. I'm drowning in this toxic whirlpool of materially driven stress, and until I find my flippers, I need regular life aids. Which brings me to the move I know I need to make. The move that, of all the sins I've committed in the past 12 months, feels grubbier, more exploitative, more transgressive than the rest. I reach into my desk drawer and pull out a small rectangle of card, pressing my finger and thumb to diagonally opposing sides and spinning it. It's pale pink and made from a heavy cardstock. On the front, a pair of intricate gold angel wings and a single debossed word. Seraph. Anton passed me this card last week at Alchemy, when I was just as exhausted as I was last night. Even more convenient than sex on tap at a club, he argued, was having sex on tap at work. An MBA-qualified executive assistant from Seraph, an agency he founded, would apparently sort me out on every front. She'd service me whenever I needed it, particularly during office hours, and keep me sated enough that 8 hours sleep might become a reality. The level of fatalism with which I've been approaching many of life's decisions these past few months is frankly terrifying. I'm on a rickety roller coaster with very little, if any, sense of control over this path along which I'm hurtling. But nothing says abject moral decay like picking up the phone to employ a prostitute in my place of work. I pick up the phone. My conversation with Anton leaves me jittery. He's promised to put in a call to Athena, his own former EA and the woman whose praises he and his successor, Max, sang that night at Alchemy. According to them, Athena is a walking epiphany, physically sensational and terrifyingly competent on every front. If she can't or won't entertain the notion of jumping ship from her current employer, a guy Anton quotes as being a total fucking waste of her body and her personality, he will call the Seraph CEO and have her meet with me to find me the right candidate, a process so daunting that I'm already shitting myself. It's with fatigue and a growing sense of self-loathing that I drag myself from my desk and over to one of the small rooms adjoining my office. Dad used it as a storeroom when he ran this place, but a spontaneous and horrifyingly expensive trip to Sotheby's auction house, shortly after I took over the running of this financial behemoth, had me anointing his storeroom with a new function. There it is. On a table in the dimly lit space sits an illuminated glass case, its contents more nourishing for my soul than any amount of sex or scotch. Above it, A simple crucifix hangs on the wall. Before it stands a Victorian leather-cushioned prie-dieu, or kneeler. I shut the door behind me with a soft click and approach the table with reverence. I already feel the softening, the easing of friction and exhaustion and guilt. This is my baptism. It will purify me in the same way that immersing my naked body in the River Jordan would cleanse me of this grimy layer of sin I carry. It will, in a small way, expunge the lingering memory of the past 12 hours and help to ground me in what is good and true and pure. It's close enough to 9 o'clock. Hora tertia, the hour when the Holy Spirit descended on the Feast of Pentecost. The office of terce offers guidance and strength from the Holy Spirit for the remainder of the day that lies ahead. Next to the glass case sits a metal pitcher and matching metal bowl. I filled the pitcher earlier this morning, and now I pour the water into the bowl, admiring the shallow, gleaming arc of liquid the jug's generous lip provides. As I prepare to wash my hands before handling the contents of the glass box, I muse at the irony of keeping terce far more regularly in my new life as a billionaire CEO than I ever did when I was an anointed servant of God. You join the priesthood for a sacred life, a life of service, and while the sacred remains, the service aspect takes front and center. Of all the 8 hours I learnt at the seminary, the only ones I kept were the morning and evening ones of Lauds and Vespers, respectively. At 9 o'clock most weekday mornings, I was mucking in at our parish soup kitchen or wrangling donors for fundraisers. I was categorically not in a position to keep the hours in the company of a £7 million book of hours from the Italian Renaissance. But now, here I am, this surreally corporate world, allowing me the space for structured contemplation that my actual role as a priest simply did not. While it's by no means a daily habit, I'm a businessman, not a Trappist monk. I find myself nipping in here for the occasional terce before board meetings, for noontime sext prayers devoted to peace and strength, often needed after said board meetings, or for the perspective on sacrifice that the 3 o'clock none offers, often before stuffing my face non-ironically with afternoon tea and biscuits. This ritualistic washing of hands that I insist on adopting may, at face value, be the smart thing to do before touching a priceless artifact, but it doesn't escape my notice that it's grounded in the muscle memory of the lavabo ritual I undertook every day at Mass before I handled the Eucharist. I may not be a priest anymore. I may no longer have the right to perform sacraments, but this silent, ceremonial hand-washing tethers me to this moment where I've chosen to stay in stillness and humility and prayer, to seek out God's grace, even as the poor, miserable sinner I am. Hands washed and dried, I don my nitrile gloves and raise the lid of the display case. My previous role required the handling of precious items, none so precious as the Lord's body and blood, but this is the most expensive and creatively impressive masterpiece I've ever owned. An Italian Book of Hours. A stunningly intricate book dedicated to the glory of God, its provenance almost as fascinating as its visual riches. It was originally commissioned by the Tornabuoni family, who were major patrons of the arts during the Italian Renaissance, and its still vivid illumination is a celebration of Florentine flamboyance, with accents of richest vermilion and ultramarine and malachite overlaid with burnished gold leaf. The conservationists at Sotheby's held my hand throughout the entire process of my taking stewardship of this priceless piece. They arranged for its storage in my office and educated me thoroughly on how to care for and handle it. The expert who led the process told me I was the first buyer she'd ever met who actually intended to use it for the purpose for which it was originally created. I can't imagine many Sotheby's clients keep the hours. The book lies open within this humidity-controlled display case, its spine supported at the requisite 120 degrees. I take a moment to marvel at the intricacy of the bianchi girari, the white vine scrollwork, in the margins, as I begin to intone the words that introduce all the hours. Deus in adiutorium meum intende, Domine ad adiuvandum me festina. O God, come to my assistance. O Lord, make haste to help me. How many people's gazes have fallen upon these pages? How many people have beseeched God with these words to help them, to bring them strength in times of distress and fear that we, with the blessings of modern medicine, can't begin to fathom? I pick up the fine bone handle with which I turn the pages of this ancient book. It's only then that I note the page it's currently open at. Compline, the bedtime prayer for protection and peaceful rest. I pulled a late one at the office last night, trying to make a dent in the infinite void of things about this industry I do not know, before ending my working day with Compline. That was about an hour before my mate, Adam Wright, called me and dragged me out to Alchemy for drinks. My prayers to God for a peaceful rest fell on deaf, and almost certainly disapproving, ears last night.
Chapter 2. Athena. When Anton Wolf's name lights up on your phone's display, you don't decline the call, for a variety of reasons. I pause the documentary I'm watching, Winter on Fire, about an uprising in Ukraine a decade ago. It's compelling and confronting in equal measure. Mr. Wolf is guaranteed to provide some light relief. Anton, hello.
Hello, Athena. How's tricks?
I can hear the smile in his voice as he drawls my name, and I swear to God my entire body breaks out in goosebumps. I'm a dog whose owner is clanging a bell and offering me a tasty chicken treat. Still turning them? I set down the remote and sit up straighter, shifting in my cashmere cocoon. The sofa is a nest of Loro Piana blankets and throw pillows, all presents from Steve Goodall, the man I currently work for, who is a thoughtful and generous gift giver.
Ha ha, that's my girl.
I would like to clarify at this point that I was never actually in love with Anton while I worked for him. Not entirely, anyway. He was merely my billionaire boss who, at more than twice my age, commanded me and used me and consumed me, rendering my 7-figure salary the second best thing about working for him. Not something I can say about my current boss. Alas, that's not to say Anton can't have my nipples hardening with a phrase like, "That's my girl," because the things I used to do, willingly, to earn that phrase in that particularly filthy, intimate tone, aren't easily forgotten. How's monogamy? I ask. It still smarts that he kicked me out as soon as his now-wife, Genevieve, rolled over for him. One Wednesday, he sidled off to Cannes with her and his number 2, Max, for a recce of her sex club, the one he was investing in, and by the following Monday morning, he was grinning and sun-kissed and telling me, kindly but firmly, that our gig was over. It made for a hell of a nightmare trying to pass things over remotely to his new EA, that's for sure, and while it's the nature of the job, it can sting.
Bloody amazing.
He says in that cheerful, larger-than-life voice of his, and I know that this particular instance of "that's my girl" is a figure of speech, and nothing more. I have to admire his total commitment to this relationship. Genevieve may be his 4th wife, but this one is here to stay. That fact was clear to me as soon as I laid eyes on her, as soon as he lured her into his office, and got Max and another colleague to rail her while he let me get him off. I knew that man's heart was toast, along with my job. Glad to hear it. I clear my throat. What can I do for you, Anton?
I have a potential position for you,
He says, and I roll my eyes. I have a position, thank you, and I don't need a pimp.
Good old keeping you overflowing with orgasms, is he?
The derision in his voice is clear. Steve is a 30-something, socially awkward nerd who runs an innovative hydrogen fuel cell company. I took the role to learn all I could about the renewables sector, and because the salary was exceptional. It's easy money in a fascinating space, and the fact that I have to fake it every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday when Steve fucks me, missionary style, on his office sofa, isn't a huge deal. That is precisely none of your business. It really isn't, and he knows it. He also knows that I'd never allow any indiscretions where my employees are concerned, ironclad NDAs aside. His voice softens.
Look, I know it isn't. I've got a mate who could use someone exactly like you in his life, and I wanted to at least make you aware of the opening. You're far too shrewd a businesswoman not to have an eye on the market at all times.
Who is he?
You know I shouldn't tell you without an NDA.
Your call, but you called me, remember? And you know I would never repeat our conversations.
His name is Gabriel Sullivan. Gabe.
I frown, trying to place the name. Sullivan.
As in Sullivan Construction. He's recently taken over from his old man.
Oh, now I understand. Sullivan owns half of the London Docklands. They're an enormous Irish construction company, going back several generations. They went public a few years back, making the family billionaires several times over. Does the son run the public company?
No, he runs Rathmore, the family's investment vehicle. They've got assets of over $8 billion. They kept a lot of the land. His brother runs the construction side.
So it's a private wealth fund, basically. I'm familiar with this concept. Families so wealthy that they don't go to a Swiss private bank like most normal rich people, but manage their assets in-house like a proper investment firm.
Exactly. Do me a favor. Look Gabe up.
Okay, give me a sec. I reach across and pull my MacBook onto my lap, typing Gabriel Sullivan into the search engine. Holy fucking shit.
He's not Steve Goodall.
He most certainly is not. A guy stares back at me from the array of corporate and Getty images the search throws up. Black hair, blue eyes, unsmiling, cheekbones that could cut glass, and ramrod straight posture. In most of them, he's wearing some variation of a suit and tie, or suit and unbuttoned shirt. But as I scroll, one photo catches my eye. I click into it, and Google serves me up the following headline in the financial section of the Telegraph, dated last year. Gabriel Sullivan is to leave the priesthood and take up the helm of Rathmore Asset Management. His father, Ronan Sullivan, is due to retire this September. It's a formal shot, but boy does it hit differently from the others. Gabriel is standing in the nave of a beautiful old church, arms folded and smile absent. So far, so on brand, in basic priest's garb. He has on a black shirt and trousers, and a simple white dog collar. Around him, the space dances with fragments of colour, courtesy of the sunlight streaming through the church's stained glass windows. I lean in to study the image. He's arresting and grave, this man of the cloth, and he is hot as fuck. So hot, in fact, that the little frisson of pleasure I felt at speaking to Anton is instantly forgotten. How does a man go from that, a sense of vocation so strong that he's willing to subjugate his most primal desires in favor of a life of service, to paying up for sex on tap? And what type of enigma does that make him? Do his former sacrifices explain his interest in the kind of solution only Seraph can provide? Or do they render it wholly inexplicable? Presumably, he once believed in the sanctity of the vows he took, in their ability to hold him and cleanse him and behallow him. Presumably, that covenant promised him a celestial array of eternal, exalted rewards in exchange for renouncing any earthly worship of money and sex. Yet he now wants to use his unlimited supply of the former to pay for an unlimited supply of the latter. There's lapsing. There's pivoting even in one's belief system, one's moral code. But this guy's 180 must be giving him whiplash.
You've gone awfully quiet. Like what you see.
Hang on. I stare at the unsmiling eyes of the man in the photo. Are you honestly suggesting you want me to fuck a guy who used to be a priest?
Used to be, being the operative words. He's a layman now, and you'd better believe he needs some stress relief. We signed him up to alchemy, but the poor fucker's too exhausted for all those late nights. One of the cleaners stumbled across him at 4 a.m. the other day. He was out cold in one of the private rooms. I don't know who is more traumatized. Anyway, he needs more of a full-service solution.
I'm silent, weighing my options. On the one hand, I don't like to turn over my employers too often. It doesn't look good on one's CV. On the other, my agency's Seraph, a discreet outfit owned by Anton and specializing in employees like me, could place me at a dozen different places tomorrow if I wanted to. CV optics aren't really a priority.
Come on.
He says in a wheedling tone.
Just meet with him. If you're happy with Woodall, then fine. But I'd like to see you have your cake and eat it. You're my OG Seraph girl. You know you are.
I'm your only Seraph girl, I point out. Anton may have founded Seraph, but he didn't make his first hire, me, until after he'd extricated himself from marriage number 3, and he met his wife only a few weeks after I started. And don't try to use words like OG. You're far too old. It doesn't work.
I've got teenage kids,
he retorts good-naturedly.
I'm cool.
You're really not. He really is. For his age, anyway.
What do you say? If the tall, dark, and handsome billionaire doesn't float your boat, you can scurry back to Steve and his godforsaken offices in... where is it? Swindon.
Reading. In a retail park, no less. It's god-awful. He guffaws.
Ha! You don't belong in fucking Reading, sweetheart. Say the word and you could be back in Mayfair where you belong, with a disgustingly handsome man fucking you senseless every day of the week. The guy was celibate for a decade. God love him. Imagine how much lost time he's got to make up for.
I chew the inside of my cheek. Imagine, indeed.
Chapter 3. Gabe. The process of laicization, whereby a priest becomes a layperson again, can be painfully protracted. The wheels of bureaucracy move slowly at the Vatican. That is, of course, unless you have something with which to grease them. Happily for impatient bastards like me, hard cash is as much of a lubricant to the machinations of the Church today as it was 5 centuries ago, when reformers such as Luther grew pissed off with the practices of indulgences, in that case greasing the wheels of the journey to heaven for you or your loved ones. Heaven is, I assume, no longer an option for me, but in the end I was laicized relatively quickly, 6 months to be exact. In fact, the most excruciating part of the entire process was having to write a letter to my boss's boss's boss, His Holiness the Pope, requesting that I be released from my ecclesiastical duties for good. As far as resignation letters go, it was a brutal one to pen. With wheels and palms greased accordingly, I was free relatively soon to sink my selfish bones deep into the swamp of moral corruption, and, appropriately enough, I celebrated the news that I was a layperson with my first fuck in a decade, finding some beautiful woman in a bar in Mayfair when I was out with my reprobate brother. I did not acquit myself with honours that night. I barely had enough time to wedge myself inside her before I was filling my condom like a spotty teenager. The past few months, I've honed my craft, stamina, precision, kinkiness, refining it principally at alchemy, restoring the luster after my years-long dry spell had rusted it. My then new mate, Anton Wolfe, whom I'd met at a high-level mixer held by one of the big consultancy firms, told me about this club his wife ran, a club I'd been meaning to try. A club that could solve all my problems. It solved most of my problems, except for the obvious one. Complete fucking exhaustion. So here I am, making my way to the 8th floor of a discreet modern building near the Bank of England to see if I can't shoehorn my personal needs into my working day and procure for myself the layperson's holy trinity of sleep, sex, and sanity. Seraph's offices are heavy on excellent views and premium square footage, and light on actual personnel. I imagine their commissions are chunky as hell, and that little manpower is needed at the management level. The space is almost entirely creamy white marble and glass, and when the unthreateningly attractive receptionist shows me into a meeting room, the vista of the City of London on this cold, crisp morning is simply breathtaking. There's nowhere like the city, with its heady mix of history and architecture and power and wealth, and to be back in its beating heart awakens something in me. It's so gloriously, unapologetically secular. This most ancient part of London was built on the greed and ambition of centuries of men, and I do mean men. It's probably intentional on Seraph's part, but simply being here has me morphing into an entirely different type of man from the type I purported to be in my shabby parish in Willesden, northwest London. As I stand with my hands in my pockets, gazing out at the very top of the Royal Exchange's famous facade, I observe that this lofty position serves to make one feel entitled. And if there's anything more entitled than using one's grotesque wealth to purchase the sexual services of a beautiful woman, I don't know what it is. There's a voice behind me, saying my name in an assured tone, and I turn.
Camille St. John,
She says, offering her hand. She's tall and well-dressed, but somehow austere-looking, with her slicked-back dark hair and black suit. She pronounces her surname in that inexplicably contracted way we Brits traditionally do, St. John. I step forward and shake the hand she's extending, feeling a flush of relief that she, like this entire setup, looks professional to a fault and not in the slightest bit seedy. There is absolutely nothing about Camille St. John or these lavishly appointed, perfectly situated offices that scream brothel. Just like Anton promised me, this is a classy outfit without the merest suspicion of sex in the air. Once my flat white has been procured, and we've seated ourselves at the small round conference table at one end of the room, Camille clicks on a small remote control, rendering the glass windows completely opaque. It's the first reminder that what we're about to discuss is of a delicate nature.
Thank you for filling out the questionnaire.
Of course. The questionnaire was comprehensive. It covered not only my and my business's professional needs, but my personal needs too. My car crash of a sexual history with its gaping hole, my appetites, my kinks, my expectations of what a Seraph executive assistant could provide. But apparently I got the abridged version, coming to the agency as I was as a personal friend of Anton's. I get it, obviously. This is serious stuff not to be messed with. Still, it's unsettling to know that this stranger knows as much about my sex life as I knew about that of my more communicative parishioners once upon a time.
You have an EA currently, I understand.
She asks, glancing up from her laptop. Yes, but she's transitioning out. She's been my father's EA for years, and she's decided to take the opportunity to cut back on her workload, so she'll be his PA for this next phase. I stifle a smile. Dad's ancient EA, Gladys, is pretty much the antithesis of everything I hope to get from a Seraph EA. If a dinosaur could also be a dragon, you'd have Gladys. I've tried to make it work for a good 9 months now, but really she's a glorified PA, better suited to booking plane tickets than trying her hand at anything remotely strategic.
Understood. And can I ask if you see this as a transition opportunity for Rathmore too?
Rathmore. Great success. My father dropped the fada over the O, but retained the rest of the phrase to encapsulate the Midas touch that he and my grandfather had had over the decades. Most definitely. I crossed my legs. My father's way of doing business was old school. Our entire estate management system needs an urgent overhaul, not to mention the hundreds of projects we need to get off the ground. Projects that keep me awake at night, when I'm not passed out in a sex club, that is. Archive digitization and sustainability initiatives and real-time occupancy rate tracking and centralized databases and maintenance predictions and upgraded procurement systems. The vastness, the complexity of what needs to be done hovers at the edge of my consciousness day and night, singeing my brain with its impossible, overwhelming immensity. She nods briskly, as though what I've said is something she can easily accommodate.
One of the main advantages of hiring your EA through Seraph is that they all have MBAs from the top schools. These women aren't just there to book flights. The kinds of projects you've described are their jam. Some of the work they do is more akin to what you can expect from a COO or a chief of staff. And if you have those positions in-house, you can absolutely have your EA work with them too, if that's what you want. In fact, we find that many of our clients end up hiring PAs or other assistants to take some of the more administrative work off their EA's hands, so they can make optimal use of them.
She's talking purely about her EA's day jobs, but I can't help a small frisson at the unintentional reminder that there will be other ways in which I'll want to optimize my EA's time. That sounds amazing. My father employed some great people, but I'll want to build my own team too.
Of course you will.
I'm already drawn to her unflappable air of competence. If nothing else, I bet any of the women on her books can whip Rathmore into shape with ease.
If I were to ask you, on a scale of 1 to 10, how confident you feel running this business you've inherited as things stand today, what would you say?
6, I say after a small hesitation. I have a business degree, but it's very rusty. I've really only been dealing with parish finances for the past few years. The only reason that number's not lower is because I obviously still have the team my dad built, so to some extent, the business can trundle on like it's been doing while I take stock. And I have my dad and my brother around too if I really need help. It's a family business. I've grown up around it, so it's familiar to me at a high level, but getting to grips with the nuts and bolts of it is a different ballgame. After probably 20 more minutes of working through my business needs, my character and my preferred working methods in broad brushstrokes, Camille taps a nail on the polished walnut of the table and gives me a little smile.
So, I understand you're particularly interested in interviewing Athena Davenport.
I instantly feel self-conscious, like I'm some slimy fuck who's trying to back-channel his way into a woman's knickers. Well, I don't know her at all, personally. It's just that she came very highly recommended by Anton and by Max Hunter. My voice sounds strangled even to me. It's unbelievably weird to be sitting here, opposite a total stranger, discussing in polite, professional terms my interest in hiring a woman who we're both painfully aware will be paid to suck my dick in between setting up charitable foundations and automating reporting systems. It seems Camille can read my discomfort, and a part of me hopes it furthers my case if I don't come across as some slick sexual predator.
Athena is a very special woman,
she tells me now.
She really is. She's one of the most articulate, intellectually nimble, and generally competent human beings I've had the privilege of working with, and she's always interested in getting to know new sectors. So what I sense feels like a bit of a mess from where you're sitting, if that's not an overstep, would be a dream come true for her.
I let out a breath. You had me at competent, I joke lamely. Is she available?
She's employed currently, but I understand Mr. Wolfe put a call into her himself, and she's happy to meet with you.
Good. That's good.
Is it helpful if I run through how our process works?
Please, I say, because this process has been shrouded in mystery from the moment Anton set up this meeting, and I find myself totally out of my depth. All I know is that I've already paid 6 figures to get myself on Seraph's books, and that if Athena or one of her colleagues agrees to work for me, I will find myself in some kind of professional and sexual nirvana with nary a headache again.
Of course. In a moment, I'll leave you to peruse Athena's files online.
She nods to the end of the room, where there's a white leather swivel chair and a desk with a large iMac.
These will include her CV, which I can of course email to you, as well as anonymous references from her previous Seraph clients, and a series of photographs of her, including some of an intimate nature.
The heat rises to my neck at the mere thought of it. Holy fuck.
It's our policy not to share any photographs of our candidates digitally, to ensure their complete protection. But you should take as much time as you like in here, and there are tissues.
She nods delicately towards the desk.
Should you need them. I've also taken the liberty of pulling 2 other candidates' files, should you not feel as though Athena is the right fit for you or your business at this stage, and you're welcome to access those too, from the home screen.
Thank you, I say weakly.
Should you wish to proceed, we have a strictly prescribed hiring process. At the first stage, you would invite the candidates to your offices, where you can conduct your interview according to your hiring policies. At this point, you are also welcome to have her sit down with other members of your team. Of course, this stage is not just a chance to find you the perfect executive assistant, but a preliminary opportunity for you to assess the extent of your sexual attraction to the candidate in the flesh. We would ask, though, that all your questions at this point pertain only to her ability to execute her role as executive assistant.
I nod my understanding. Got it.
You'll understand, Mr. Sullivan, that everything we do is geared towards the safety and well-being of our candidates. Therefore, whomever you've met with is welcome to walk away at this stage, or indeed any stage. If, however, you're both happy to proceed, then the next round of the hiring process is a dinner, where you can both discuss the more intimate parts of your proposed contract. Frank communication between the two of you is strongly encouraged at this point to set expectations and establish boundaries. The candidate will be interviewing you just as much as you are interviewing her, and it's my experience that she is far more likely to walk away from this stage than you are.
Yeah. Yes, that's fine, of course.
Good. We usually hold these dinners in a private spot in a selection of trusted hotels, and we reserve a suite in the same hotel for your use. Directly after supper, if you're both happy to proceed based on your conversation, you and she can make use of the suite to explore the sexual side of the interview.
I begin to gape and quickly clamp my jaw shut. Anton mentioned something about this in passing, but still, it's also transactional. I mean, of course it is. But the idea of sitting across from a woman at dinner when I haven't been on a proper date in donkey's years and spelling out for her all the things I want to do to her before taking her upstairs for a fucking test drive is confronting. It really is. It's also, for some reason, incredibly arousing. I have to force myself to ask the next question. Is there a prescribed format for that part too? A tiny smile.
No. That's down to you. We ask that she establish a safe word, and that you honor it.
Okay.
You've already paid your retainer, for which I thank you. You may see and interview as many candidates as you like, but for every candidate you take to the second round, there is a £25,000 fee that goes straight to her. This is to ensure that none of our clients take gratuitous liberties with our candidates.
It makes sense, and I like that they have this measure in place. Ugh. I imagine some dirty bastards would work their way through every woman on Seraph's books otherwise. That sounds reasonable.
Excellent.
She pushes her chair back.
Now, unless you have any other questions, I'll pull up Athena's details for you and leave you to it.
Chapter 4. Gabe. Viewing Athena's files is akin to being a lobster in a gently simmering vat of water. At least that's what I conclude as I look at the contents page at the start of the document. My journey of discovery will take me, apparently, from her CV and professional references through to something called intimate references, which simultaneously has my skin crawling and my blood heating. I'm sure it'll fluff me up nicely before I look at the images section. As I read through her opening statement and the rest of her CV, it quickly becomes apparent to me that this woman is not only disgustingly accomplished, but grotesquely overqualified to assist anyone. She went to school in a number of European countries, the daughter of 2 cultural attachés apparently, and speaks French, German, and Italian fluently. After that, she finished up her secondary education 1 year early at the unimpeachable Cheltenham Ladies' College and read classics at Balliol, Oxford. After only 2 years at Bain, instead of the requisite 3 years for MBA entry, the Sorbonne accepted her for their MBA program, from which, reading between the lines of her employment history, she was plucked by Seraph. Camille was certainly telling the truth about Athena's capacity for work that goes far beyond administrative duties. Her CV is a list of her achievements: projects led and foundations established and corporation-wide systems overhauled. I bet she did it all without breaking a sweat. While the company names are withheld, I note that she hasn't worked for many bulge-bracket firms since Bain, Wolf accepted. Either Seraph doesn't operate within those companies, or it's a function of Athena's own admission in her opening statement. She seeks to gain as much of an education as possible from the access her position gives her. I choose not to linger on the word access. Her first position was in Paris, it seems. She then worked for a conglomerate, which I'd guess was Anton's company, Wolf Holdings. After that, she was at some kind of tech firm, and now holds a position in the renewable sector. There's no doubt this woman would overhaul Rathmore more quickly than you could say dinosaur. I skimmed through the professional references. They are as glowing, as grateful as I imagined they'd be. The next section, the intimate references, makes for uncomfortable reading. I'm desperate to click through to her photos, ravenous to see what a woman this accomplished, this polished, this adored by Max and Anton looks like. But I don't. Instead, I force myself to dwell on the pithy sound bites laid out on the page in elegant quote marks, as if I'm reading a selection of verdicts from restaurant critics and not horny businessmen. They're horrifying and arousing in equal measure, a kind of sick boys' club where we're all winking and high-fiving each other over our excellent choices. Athena fucks like a dream and took absolutely everything I gave her. Athena is that rare woman who is even filthier than me. She led a lot of our fantasies together and pushed me beyond my limits. I press my lips together. I can feel the judgment radiating from myself at these comments. I can't bear it, but neither can I look away. And with every dirty word I read, my anticipation ramps up. It's the final review that has my dick thickening in my trousers. Do yourself a favor and, more importantly, do Athena a favor. Unleash her. Hiring this woman and just fucking her on your desk twice a week would be a travesty. It would be like buying a thoroughbred and making it do kiddie rides at the fair. This woman loves dick. She wants it from you. She wants it from your clients. She wants it from you in front of your clients. Ask her yourself. Just promise me you won't treat her like the fragile little rose she looks like, because she will wilt and die. I hit return, breathing heavily as the screen turns to a white page entitled Images. My skin is prickling, my dick now fully hard. What a disrespectful, nasty prick that last guy is. Emotions push through my veins like a twisted, toxic rope. I have no way of knowing whether he's telling the truth, whether he understands or respects Athena's needs at all. But I'm suddenly, uncomfortably aware that this is the big leagues. This woman is experienced. She's done things I can't begin to imagine with some of the most powerful men in industry. And if I go ahead with this insane scheme to hire her, I'll have to make it worth her while. In every way. I click through, and I almost laugh. The build-up to this moment has been ridiculous. Athena has been lauded as the most competent employee and incredible fuck, and I honestly didn't know what to expect. Some AI concoction of the perfect woman, I suppose. But not this. The young woman gazing back at me from the Head and Shoulders portrait is beautiful in a way that makes the word feel meaningless and trite. It's clearly a business photograph. Her auburn hair is in an updo loose enough to showcase its natural wave. She's in what looks like a black dress with a modest crewneck, a simple strand of pearls at her neck, and pearl studs in her ears. Her makeup is light, tasteful. She looks like the daughter of diplomats, that's for sure. She looks like she belongs in a fucking Ferrero Rocher ad. But none of that matters, because her face alone is its own best advocate. She's not merely hot or sexy or enticing. She's classically, ethereally, achingly beautiful in a way that appears to be down to the perfect alchemy of her huge hazel eyes and delicate bone structure and shapely nose and rosebud mouth. It's an elite, untouchable kind of beauty. The kind that would make a man wary even of approaching her if he saw her in a bar. A flawless loveliness that belongs on centuries-old frescoes, and one that I absolutely cannot square with the filthy, carnal, animalistic things those men said about her. That this woman sells her body for money is the biggest headfuck I've ever had. That she sells it for 7 figures a year and has men like Anton and Max drooling over her memory years after their paths crossed is marginally less shocking, I suppose. The next photo is a similar crop, but this time she's makeup-free. Her hair is loose, and I can see it is indeed wavy, trailing past the bottom of the image. I'm no expert, but it looks professionally blow-dried and very, very glossy. If it wasn't for the thin black bra straps, I'd think she was naked. Her skin is clear, that rosebud mouth slightly open and just as pink without its light sheen of lipstick. There are the faintest shadows under her eyes, and they make her look even younger, more fragile. That she allegedly enjoys being gangbanged is a thought I can't allow myself to entertain, not when I'm hard like this. And despite my throbbing erection, I slip into priest mode, asking myself the questions I would have asked about any member of my flock. Is she vulnerable? Has she had sufficient agency with these men? Does she have someone to advocate for her, to keep her safe? The next shot is, God help me, a full-length image against a white backdrop. Athena, barefaced and barefooted, naked except for a sheer black bra and what looks like a thong. It's a simple pose, not provocative. She's standing still, hands hanging loose at her sides, feet together. Sheer lingerie aside, there's absolutely nothing porno about it, yet it's oddly confronting. I think it's the lack of artifice. Once again, she looks young and fragile and untouched, and I have the distinct impression that I'm looking at someone I shouldn't. If the effect Seraph is going for is intoxicatingly forbidden, then these people are diabolical indeed. She's on the slim side, with a slender waist and fuller hips, but she's not gym-honed at all. Her skin is pale and flawless, aside from a smattering of moles on her stomach that look positively decorative. There's little muscle definition. Her breasts are heavy, the outlined nipples full. Her stomach is a soft swell. A man could lay his weary head between those breasts or on that stomach and feel thoroughly, happily contented. I let my gaze run over the photo as I palm my dick through my trousers. Suddenly the box of tissues Camille pointed out makes a lot more sense. There is absolutely nothing about this picture I don't like. No doubt about it. Athena Davenport is a stunning woman. The arrow at the bottom of the screen is still black. Looks like there are more images to see. Oh, holy fuck. Dear blessed Father in heaven, I know not what I do, because I was not expecting this. Athena, perched on a tall stool, utterly, wonderfully naked. She's sitting upright, eyes wide, lips still parted, that same neutral expression on her face. This time it strikes me as more disingenuous, more dangerous. Her toes are propped up on the rungs of the stool, her knees wide. That beautiful auburn hair hangs loose, trailing over what are indeed glorious breasts, their rosy nipples now tightly furled. She's cupping a breast with one hand, while, with the other, she reaches between her legs and opens herself up for the camera with her fingers. I zoom in. So help me God. I zoom in like a frenzied madman so I can enjoy the glossy pinkness of her bare cunt, exposed for me, for my viewing pleasure. I stare at it, palming my cock harder. I absolutely will not be that man who gets himself off in someone's office to pornographic images of a beautiful woman with whom he has not yet entered into a contractual relationship. I will not. But there's something so deeply arresting about this juxtaposition of Athena's facial inscrutability and the wantonness, the brazenness of her pose. It feels less like an invitation than a challenge to try in vain to resist her. And it's clear, simply from the miraculous arrangement of pixels in front of me, that I will fall at that first hurdle.
Chapter 5. Athena. The French have two phrases they use when they want to wish someone good luck. Bonne chance, for when one's fate lies in the hands of the gods, and bon courage, for when your success will come down to your personal level of fortitude. It's the latter I need when I first meet a prospective employer. Not only is walking into the offices of someone who might be your new boss and your new fuck particularly surreal, but the interview dynamic is a tough one to get right. Women often have to fight not to be treated as a sexual object in the corporate world. Most of us would demand, or at least hope, that any interviewer for a new job would focus on our qualifications for the position and not on our looks. In this instant, however, I will sit down with a man to discuss his professional needs and my professional suitability, while both of us imagine each other naked on a constant loop. It's a lot. Even the dress code is a tough one to get right. Professional rather than provocative, but not totally sexless. The elephant in the room at first-round Seraph interviews tends to be more of a T-Rex. A T-Rex who asks, does he want to put his dick inside me badly enough to offer me a job? And can I tolerate being stuffed full of him enough to say yes? I'm not sure why I'm nervous this morning. On paper, this is a no-brainer. I've worked for Steve long enough to know that renewables, while superbly positioned for future growth, aren't my jam. The sector isn't for the faint of heart. Someone else comes up with better technology, which they inevitably do, and you're toast. More pertinently, this guy I'm meeting today, Mr. Sullivan, is clearly an upgrade. Unless he's been a cleric for so long he's forgotten how to use his dick, that is. Everything I've seen of him online shows me he is hot as fuck. Steve, on the other hand, is perfectly fine, but nothing to write home about looks-wise. Our sexual relationship is highly regimented. He has a strong preference for being able to dictate the circumstances in which he gets intimate. I get it, and I've grown surprisingly fond of him, or as fond as I grow of anyone. He's insanely smart, and generous to a fault with his information. I've learned a ton from him, and I truly relish our intellectual back and forths. Sexually and career-wise, though, I'm in a rut, so I should be champing at the bit to get my hands on this job. And this guy. It's just that going into a new role with a new boss can be fraught. Given the salary I command, I aim to hit the ground running, professionally and sexually. There isn't ever time to get my feet under the table properly, and I find it takes a huge physical and emotional toll on me. Again, it's a lot, and if I take this challenge on, I'll have to be even more disciplined with my sleep and nutrition regimes than I have been since I got comfortable with Steve. This morning, I've taken the step of turning the Heiress tour on my TV while I get ready. Usually, I have CNBC or Bloomberg on in the background to get me up to speed on any overnight news out of the US and Asia. But today I require a proverbial kick up the arse. Taylor Swift is not just about the music for me, fantastic though it is. She's a walking, singing example of what we can achieve when we keep our eye on the prize. Her work ethic and her commitment to excellence are second to none. She keeps her head down. She pushes herself. She moves forward. She dreams big. She does what needs to be done, and she does it with boundaries and grace and humility. So when I'm feeling uncharacteristically vulnerable or apprehensive, or my usual drive eludes me, I watch her command tens of thousands of people, and I remind myself that star quality might be innate, but that hard fucking work gets you what you want and where you want. This job is a stepping stone. This guy is a stepping stone. I have a vision, and I'm already so far ahead of the rest of my MBA class in terms of the salary I command, and the access I enjoy, and the trajectory I have, that it's laughable. After another 3 or 4 years of doing this, I'll have my pick of C-suite jobs, and I won't have to endure years of middle management along the way. I slide my iPad into my handbag. The car I booked is waiting for me downstairs, and I'm confident the traffic will allow for ample time for me to go over the copious notes I've made on Mr. Sullivan's background, the growth and IPO of Sullivan Construction, and the spin-off of the estate into Rathmore. One last glance in the mirror confirms all I need to know. My lipstick is perfect, and my future is blinding. There's always a moment in this job. That moment when you catch your first glimpse of him in the flesh. I've seen photos of Mr. Sullivan already, obviously, through my research, but it's always different seeing them in person. Rathmore's offices are located in a beautiful Georgian building on Berkeley Square, right across the square from the infamous members' club Annabelle's. So far, so much better than Steve Goodall's offices in Swindon. The interiors are plush and old school. Their thickly padded cream carpets and wood panels and perfectly lit art scream private bank, but the overall effect is less stuffy than reassuringly opulent. I'd put money on that being a real Twombly behind the reception desk. My parents, who are cultural attachés, were pivotal in making his posthumous exhibition at the Centre Pompidou in Paris happen a few years back. This guy may have been a priest, but he enjoys expensive, alluring things. Noted. I see him a second or two before he spots me. He strides out into the reception area from a corridor on the left at a brisk pace, an unasked question on his face as he looks to his receptionist. And in the moment before our eyes meet, my brain downloads him like a 3D scanner. Taller than I expected, lean build, good posture. That's a custom suit, probably Savile Row, and he wears it well. Somehow, his face looks more open, less intense than that photo I enjoyed so thoroughly of him as a priest. Still, I'm not the only one who's tightly wound. I can sense his nervous energy from here. And finally, he is seriously fucking hot. I rise as he turns towards me, preempting him, smoothing the skirt of my dress over my thighs as I do.
Ah, Athena,
He says, clocking me. There's no way to miss the rapid, and likely involuntary, sweep he does of my body before meeting my eyes. He approaches, hand outstretched, with what I know he intends as a reassuring smile on his face.
So good of you to come in. How do you do?
I know this guy comes from new money, from at least 2 generations of proudly self-made Irishmen. Perhaps that explains his friendliness. But in this instant, the elite education his family wealth has afforded him at Ampleforth and then Durham University is also evident. Socially assured, but with that Irish charm, it's a deadly combination. We shake. Thank you so much for having me, Mr. Sullivan, I say, my voice clear and steady. It's wonderful to meet you. I've been in training for moments like this my entire life. Every gala I've attended in the kind of icy imperial splendor that only Vienna can boast. Every visiting cultural delegate with whom I've had to make sparkling small talk. Every opening night at l'Opera in the presence of artists and money men alike. They've all taught me how to produce precisely the right social reaction for every given situation.
It's Gabriel, or Gabe, please.
He says, turning and gesturing towards the corridor from which he appeared.
Don't make me feel any more like my father than I already do.
He takes my coffee order and relays it to the receptionist before ushering me down the corridor and through an antechamber featuring an empty desk to his office. I take it in quickly. It's a large, well-lit room with the same panelled walls and cream carpet as in reception, except that these walls are painted a rich midnight blue. I assume that space we just came through is where I would sit if I worked here. There are 2 doors off to the right, both shut. I'm here to sell my powers as an executive assistant, but I can't help but run through in my mind how the sexual side would work. The partition between this room and my area is glass, but the door and wall leading out to the corridor are solid. It's a good start. His desk is huge and solid oak, with presumably ample room for me to slide underneath it if I wanted to suck him off, and there's a large sofa against the far wall. I've worked with worse. At his signal, I take a seat in front of his desk and cross my legs, placing my handbag on the ground next to me. I've opted for my interview staple of a fitted navy shift dress in supple wool crepe from Victoria Beckham. It's just as formal as a suit, and squarely work attire, but the exquisitely sharp tailoring is most definitely cut to celebrate a woman's body. The main agenda of this meeting may be defined, but there's a shitload of subtext, and I intend to make that subtext speak very, very clearly. I have good reason to be confident about my prospects if I nail this morning's interview. Camille reported back to me that Mr. Sullivan, Gabriel, emerged from perusing my portfolio somewhat gruff of voice, and with his overcoat held firmly in place in front of his crotch. So he was turned on, but he didn't avail himself of the tissues. How very Catholic of him. Every sperm is sacred. Isn't that how it goes? I've also seen the full notes from their meeting. I know how out of his depth he feels, and I sympathize. He's emerged from what was supposed to be a lifelong vocation, only to spearhead a company that's loaded with potential, but is really a bit of a mess. He was probably severely institutionalized in the priesthood, and I imagine his business degree feels far, far away. All I have to do, therefore, is wow him with my understanding of his needs and my business acumen, and persuade him that I can take every single professional headache off his plate. And that's all before we get to the next round. The part where I fuck him free of every personal headache, too.
Chapter 6. Gabe. If this was a usual type of interview, I'd be berating myself for objectifying my interviewee quite so shamelessly. As it is, I allow myself to be just a little transfixed by the assured, beautiful young woman sitting in front of me. I draw the line at pulling up that provocative image of her naked and holding herself open from my spank bank, though. That's a bridge I absolutely will not cross this morning. Even so, it's the oddest thing to know that she's essentially interviewing to fuck me as well as to work for me. It feels equal parts miraculous and profoundly wrong that a princely sum of money is all that's required for me to get intimate with her. Because there is no denying she's a prize of the greatest magnitude. But it's my bank balance, rather than my worth as a man, that will ultimately dictate my success here. I really must concentrate, because I am in dire need of a fine strategic brain to assist me with the multitude of responsibilities I face, and while the team I inherited is perfectly fine, the ancient Gladys aside, I'm yet to make a senior hire since I took over. Putting the right team around me is vital to the success of this legacy I'm stewarding, and everything coming out of Athena's mouth tells me she could do this job standing on her head. She'd preempt everything I need. I can just tell. She'd nail her allocated workload, and it wouldn't surprise me if she jumped into a whole host of extra projects just for the thrill of it. Still, it's surprisingly hard to concentrate, surprisingly difficult to separate my search for the perfect executive assistant with the strictly off-limits part of this interview. The knowledge that I'm essentially sizing someone up to be my main fuck buddy for the foreseeable future. Athena's beauty, you see, is the kind that's impossible to ignore. It's everything her portfolio promised and more, because static images can never compete with the perfection of features like these when they're in motion. It's not just the size of her big, thickly lashed hazel eyes that's captivating, but the way they shine when she summarizes a particularly taxing analysis she undertook recently on hydrogen fuel cells. It's not just the lustrousness of her long, thick auburn hair, but the way she keeps flicking it impatiently over her shoulder, as if it's cramping her style. It's not just the lushness of her body, swathed in enough expensive wool to be perfectly professional, but the expressive grace with which she uses her hands to hammer her points home. It's not just the pink, rosebud mouth, which was appealing enough in the photos but now undulates in a way far more sensuous than her business-like delivery probably intends. That's the thing. This woman is not flirting in the slightest. She's solely in business mode, and it's compelling. It's compelling partly because of her staggering looks, which feels unfair to her because her allure in this moment is so much more than that. She's not manic, not in the least bit. She's far too assured for that, too self-controlled. But there's an energy there, a drive that's impossible to miss. She's dynamic in a way that's seriously impressive. The extensive prep she's done for our interview shows, and her enthusiasm is undeniably infectious. In this moment, she's every inch the star MBA student from one of Europe's best schools, and I know she's exactly what this fucking place needs. That her face and her voice and her body are one bewitching siren's call should be beside the point. Should be. But she's not a stereotypical MBA student, and this is not a stereotypical position, and those looks of hers aren't incidental. They're integral to this pitch she's making to me, that she's worth a salary tens of times higher than this position would otherwise warrant. None of this is to judge her. Lord, no. After all, she's playing to her strengths in spectacular style. She's the real deal. The fantasy that's equally intoxicating to the businessman in me who's drowning professionally, and to the flesh and blood man. One thing has quickly become clear. This role will morph into something far beyond its basic requirements if Athena takes it on. I may not be experienced in business, but I am experienced in people. If an individual as promising as her shows up, I'm going to maximize her potential. In the day job, that is. I've been sitting perfectly still, fingers interlaced over my stomach, listening to her speak for a couple of minutes. Listening is another area of expertise I honed during my previous career, but rarely is it as pleasurable as this. Rarely in my parish prayer meetings or in the confessional was I this avid. It's clear you're incredibly capable, I say now, and that you like to get your teeth into things. There'll be a lot of that here. We're very much still in a transition phase, and I'm finding myself so busy fighting fires and improving on the most glaring problems that I haven't had much of a chance to get on the front foot with what's really the fun stuff. That is, building out how I want this estate to function for the next generation or two.
I can definitely help with that.
And I'd love your help. Once you had full access, how would you go about identifying which projects we should prioritize? I can see the machinations whirring in her head as she tilts it.
Well, the most efficient way would be if I drew up an initial high-level transition plan within a couple of weeks of starting, and then...
What would happen if we took a bit more time? She frowns.
In my experience, expediency is the preferred route, as long as it doesn't risk sloppiness. And it sounds like we have no time to waste, if you're still feeling like you're on the back foot after almost a year in the role.
I smile inwardly at her use of we and lean back in my chair, studying her intently. I'm a very patient man, Athena. Expediency isn't always the best route. Sometimes taking it slowly is far more rewarding. I pause, sink my teeth into my bottom lip. She stares at me, pressing her palms to her thighs, the silence stretching between us like a taut, living thing. After all, I say after a moment, nothing is more important than getting the job done properly, is it? I don't like a rushed job. I'm nothing if not thorough. Our gazes are still locked, and I'd swear I'm responsible for that flush on her cheeks. If I've managed to fluster the professional with a couple of unfairly made innuendos, then I'm less rusty than I thought.
Absolutely.
She shifts slightly in her chair before clearing her throat.
Yes, of course. I'd aim to be efficient while prioritizing excellence and, rigor above everything else.
I shoot her what I intend to be a smooth smile. Excellent. Chapter 7. Gabe. If I'm still slightly embarrassed by how quickly I called Camille after Athena left my offices yesterday morning, then I'm also ecstatic at how quickly Camille called me back to confirm a dinner with Athena tonight. Even if she'd looked like Gladys, I would have got down on my knees and begged her to take the job and put me out of my misery. As it is, I'm thrilled to report that she looks nothing like Gladys and is, if her presence across the table from me is any proof, open to taking this process to the next round. Upstairs. We're dining in an intimate alcove in the excellent seafood restaurant at the Montague Hotel in Knightsbridge. It's an elegant, discreet restaurant, perfect for clandestine dates or morally ambiguous job interviews. Around us floats a soundtrack of dinner jazz and low voices, and cutlery being employed. I was waiting at the restaurant's bar when Athena arrived, a fact that seemed to surprise her. It was worth it to enjoy the view of her walking across the stylish space in a dress that's far sexier than the one she wore yesterday, while being far too classy to hint that her profession might be the oldest one of all. It was black lace, hitting just below the knee, and fitted enough to showcase her fantastic curves. I didn't miss the appreciative, curious glances she got from both men and women, and the hit of intense smugness I experienced when she stopped in front of me and allowed me to kiss her on both cheeks was decidedly unchristian. "You know," I say conversationally, once our champagne has been poured, "you're the first woman I've taken out to dinner for years and years. Aside from my mother, that is. Oh, and the Mother Superior from our local convent in Willesden once or twice." She gives me a sardonic smile.
I'm honored.
"Don't be. Mum tells me my dinner conversation is terrible, but I'll try not to talk about scripture too much tonight."
That would probably set the wrong tone,
she muses. There's a pause while we each take a sip of our champagne. She's surveying me with something akin to low-level amusement, I think. It's as if she can smell my nerves, as if she knows exactly how apprehensive I am about this conversation. I'm sure she's not apprehensive at all. I'm hoping this is very firmly in her comfort zone. In fact, I'm counting on it. "I hope you can tell me how the fuck this thing is going to work, because I haven't got a bloody clue." She sets down her glass, narrowing her eyes.
Please tell me you're not talking about your dick, because that would be very disappointing.
I bark out a shocked laugh, both at the fact that she's gone there so soon and at her perfectly deadpan delivery. My guffaw is loud enough that a woman at the nearest table glances over in alarm. No, I'm pretty well versed in how that works.
Are you sure?
She arches a perfectly groomed eyebrow.
You can take the guy out of the priesthood.
So this is how it's going to be. I needn't worry about transitioning from our mostly formal conversation yesterday to something darker and hotter and slicker, because she's already setting the tone. It makes sense, I suppose. I'd hardly expect her to clutch her pearls. "I promise. Anton's had me in training for this. Hard." At Anton's name, something flickers across her face. Agitation, maybe? She looks a little flustered.
That's one hell of a visual.
She murmurs, and I shake my head, diverted. "He signed me up to alchemy."
Oh, yes, that'll do the trick.
We're silent again for a moment. Then she says,
In terms of how this works, the answer is that it works however you'd like it to work, and it can be fluid.
I nod. "Without breaking confidentiality, can you give me any idea of how you've managed in the past?"
It really depends on my employer. I've only had 4 placements so far. Some of them liked the kink factor, obviously, as in the actual fact that they were paying me to fuck them whenever they wanted was the primary appeal.
I nod again, reaching desperately for my champagne flute. Jesus. Having this conversation sober and dispassionately and face-to-face with this beautiful, sexy woman will be harder than I've anticipated. I wonder if she can see how out of my depth I am.
Often, I'm a tool, an upper or a downer, in the same way that leaders with a lot of responsibility might deal with it by snorting coke, or drinking too early in the day, or having a masseur or a chiropractor or a PT, depending on how health-conscious they are. Other guys use women like me to screw it all out of their system. They need to fluff themselves up before a big meeting. They fuck me. They need to celebrate a win or get over a bad meeting. They fuck me. It's amazing just how many professional headaches can be eliminated by an excellent blowjob.
She pauses, and I focus very hard on not reacting outwardly, because the fact that my reality will soon consist of a woman who looks like Athena getting on her knees for me whenever I want during the working day is really breaking my brain.
Some guys want me as a trophy, and
She continues with an elegant little shrug.
Some guys just want efficiency, or productivity. The ones who are less patient than you, naturally.
She gives me a teasing smile that I find I like a lot. She didn't smile much yesterday, but she's undoubtedly more mellow this evening. You talked a good game about productivity yesterday, Athena, but the way you look is going to be by far the biggest risk to any productivity I might have.
You'd be surprised.
She licks her lips.
Don't underestimate me, or yourself. All those transition reports I said I could draw up for you, you can read them while I'm under your desk, sucking your...
I lean forward, cutting her off. When I speak, my eyes are on her little pink mouth, and my voice is lower, gruffer than I've intended. If you think I'd be able to focus on anything but you when you were getting me off, you are far more naive than I thought you were. Remember what I told you? Sometimes slow is way better. The smile she shoots me is self-satisfied.
So that was an innuendo yesterday. You were fucking with me. I couldn't be completely sure.
I sigh. A parish priest has to be almost as patient as a lifer in prison. I was telling the truth. I am a patient man. A pause. But yeah, I was fucking with you. Just a little bit. I wanted to see if I could get a rise out of you.
I like that.
She hesitates and looks down, twirling the stem of her glass between her fingers.
As soon as you said that, I imagined your mouth between my legs and your hand on my stomach, holding me down while you took your time with me.
A muscle clenches, low and insistent in my belly. I realize she's paid to do this. I realize it's her job and she's very, very good at it. I realize she's essentially an echo chamber for my ego and my desires. But God, if it doesn't feel real when she says things like that. More pertinently, real or not, it seems like it's going to happen tonight. Good. I wanted you to imagine that, because I was imagining that too. She looks up at me, her face rapt.
I was a little worried you'd be holier than thou.
I roll my eyes. The fact that I'm trying to hire you suggests otherwise.
Touché. And now that you've brought it up, why don't you start by telling me exactly how a man who used to be a priest comes to an agency like Seraph? Maybe then we can work out how this thing is going to work. It might give me a starting point for how I can help you at least.
Did Anton tell you anything? I ask, watching her face. I know he put in a call. Her mouth twists in amusement.
He said you were struggling with burning the candle at both ends. You traumatized one of the cleaners at Alchemy, I believe.
I suck in a rueful breath through my teeth. You could say that, yeah. Anton and Max suggested I might do better to optimize my work days, shall we say. They both spoke very highly of you. She shoots me a proper smile, and it is absolutely dazzling.
Oh, Max. He's a bad, bad boy.
If the nostalgia she seems to be indulging in behind that smile is any indication, she really does enjoy the sexual part of her job. That should assuage my lingering guilt over paying this woman for sex, but I do not enjoy the peak that hits me right in my gut. So I've heard. Totally reformed now, of course, I add hurriedly, lest her stroll down memory lane turn X-rated. Completely loved up, twice over.
I saw that. Wonders will never cease. But yes, those two definitely knew how to optimize their working day. And you want to do the same, I assume?
I hesitate. I won't pretend this is a no-brainer for me. From celibacy to paying for sex is a far bigger moral leap than I could ever have seen myself making, and I'm working through a lot of shit related to that. But I'm damned anyway. I'm very far from celibate these days, and the Seraph proposition is extremely attractive. As are you, obviously. She leans forward, giving me an excellent view of the shadow of her cleavage.
Gabriel, I can't pretend to know what you've been through during this transition, but I can assure you There's no need to feel any guilt on my account. This is purely transactional, just like you hiring me as a regular EA would be transactional. If anything, this should relieve you of any guilt you have around going after sex. You don't have to pretend you're going to call someone or worry about leading her on. You're paying me. The boundaries are very clear, and I'm a professional. I can look after myself. You don't need to cuddle me after sex, or send me flowers, or worry about me falling for you. You fuck me, you pay me. That's that.
She sits back in her seat.
When you think about it, it's pretty refreshing, actually.
I smile at that. That's reassuring, thank you.
My pleasure,
She says coquettishly. Can I ask you a question? I realize you may not give me a genuine answer, but if you feel you can be honest, I'd appreciate it.
Of course. Honesty is very important.
I'm galvanized by her response to Max Hunter's mention just now. She doesn't seem traumatized by whatever the fuck he and Anton did to her. On the contrary. Do you enjoy the sexual side of your job, or do you merely tolerate it? Is it just a means to an end? She gazes at me and worries her bottom lip between her teeth in a way that tells me she's giving my question serious consideration.
If you want full honesty, then it's both. It's a rung on a ladder that everyone has to climb, only my ladder is steeper and gets me much, much further than most people's. But I enjoy the climb very much, and I've chosen this stage in my career very intentionally. I haven't been forced into it at all. I get unimaginable access to powerful, inspiring men, and I learn more than I ever could as a graduate trainee.
I watch her lips move as she enunciates the next part more deliberately.
And, for the most part, I enjoy fucking powerful guys. I fucking love it. It turns me on to have them use me, to know that everyone wants a piece of them and they want me. These are men who command people's attention effortlessly, but I'm often the center of their attention. Does that answer your question?
It's answered my question so fully that I'm semi-hard under the table now. I believe her. She's bloody convincing. What do you enjoy the most? I ask her, my voice low and rough. The restaurant around us is forgotten. There's only Athena and her beauty and her wantonness and her candor.
I'll enjoy whatever you enjoy.
She recites, and I scoff. Athena, I wasn't born yesterday.
Fine. I told you. Being used. It's the filth of it that does it for me, most of all. My current boss is very sweet, respectful. He worships me, which is lovely, but there's not much throwdown. I'm happy there, but I'd like to try a new sector, which is why I agreed to meet with you.
I don't let my eyes stray from hers, even for a second. I think we established yesterday that my company would present you with plenty of intellectual challenges.
Yes, we did.
So, that's a given. Now, forget the sector for a second, and tell me what you like. So help me God, I want to imagine it. I've met this woman twice, and she's already got under my skin. I'm aware I have my work cut out. How the hell can a guy who willingly abstained from sex for years begin to satisfy a woman like this, who is so in touch with her needs? But I already know I want to. I already know this is what will be the kindling in my relationship with Athena, however transactional. This is what will bring purpose to my days. Challenging her, commanding her, conquering her. My tone has her huge eyes widening. It's almost as if she needed to hear that a man she must be thinking of as too virtuous for his own good is capable of speaking to her like that. A server materializes with our Eckel oysters and places the platter deferentially on the stand between us. When he's left us, I nod at her to continue.
I like being your property, I suppose,
She says more quietly.
I love putting my business brain to good use, while all the time knowing that I'm at your beck and call. That you'll treat me like nothing more than a set of warm, tight holes when I least expect it.
I swallowed her debasing, hypnotic words. Go on.
I love that you can just shove me to my knees whenever you like, or prop me up in your desk and play with my pussy for hours while you make calls, teasing me and teasing me, but I can't make a sound. Or that you can lock your office door and get me on my hands and knees and fuck me, literally, whenever you want. And my absolute favourite thing would be being your trophy.
I shut my eyes for a moment, steeling myself to make it through at least the starter of this meal before shooting my load. I'm rock hard now. She mentioned the term trophy earlier, and I have a horrible feeling I know just where she's going with it. Tell me more about that, I say, my throat tight with desire. She pauses and picks up an oyster, adorning it with vinaigrette and lemon juice before raising her chin and tipping one down her throat. She swallows it whole, shocker, and I watch like a filthy pervert as the pale column of her throat contracts around it. She licks her lips.
Those are truly excellent. As I was saying, the trophy thing really gets me off. Think about it. What's the point of spending £1 million a year on me if you don't get to have a little flex to your friends? I'm your biggest status symbol and your most lethal secret weapon.
Under the table, I wipe my palm down my wool-covered thigh. I'm sweating. Go on.
If you want to show me off, you can. Play with me in front of your investors. Get me to strip. Lay me down in the middle of the fucking boardroom table and use me as a sushi platter for a lunch meeting. I'm down with it all. Think of how jealous they'd be that you have a fuck toy like me and they don't. Think of the bragging rights. Let them get stuck in if you're feeling kind.
She lowers her voice until it's barely more than the most filthy, suggestive whisper.
Or, if a counterpart isn't playing ball, that's when you wheel me in. You can use me as a carrot if you like. Get me on my knees in front of them, and they'll sign whatever building permit or God knows what else you want.
My mind is reeling. A woman more intelligent, more highly educated than the vast majority of the people I've interacted with, both within the church and outside it, is hitting me with shot after depraved shot of sin and corruption and deviance and exploitation. The part of me that has always taken the pastoral needs of his flock to heart is horrified, but there's a darker, baser part that's downright desperate for a better glimpse of this twisted dynamic she's describing. I couldn't give a fuck about bragging rights. Exploiting a woman like that to flex, as she puts it, is anathema to me. But the rest of it is hot as fuck. Why is that? Why is the picture she paints of me using her and enjoying her publicly and passing her around my friends so intoxicating? It's the power dynamic, I suppose. It's far less about establishing superiority over any business associates than it is about establishing power over her, of being her master, of having such a spellbinding, impressive woman willing to do all of those things at a single command from me. The realization disgusts me, even while it has me hardening impossibly all the more. But what she's saying shouldn't come as a huge surprise to me, given that anonymous review that still burns my retinas. This woman loves dick. She wants it from you. She wants it from your clients. She wants it from you in front of your clients. Ask her yourself. The shock, therefore, lies in hearing it from her own pretty little mouth. This is what she wants. I asked her to tell me, and she's telling me, and I'm judging her, probably because of some antiquated, misogynistic assumption that women can't have obscenely high IQs and adore getting dicked down, and probably also because I'm so terrified of how much I want everything she's just described that I daren't allow myself to believe that she might want it too, just as badly. If Athena is telling the truth, then it seems like I may have to get used to her taking me to places I didn't even know to conceive of before. As problems go, that's a high-quality one.
Chapter 8. Athena. By the time we finished our main course, my thong is soaked through. It's partly the topic of our dinner conversation that's done it, naturally. Recounting all the things that get me off the most in this unique role of mine turns me on every time, and I can only hope he's been listening as attentively as he seemed to be. Not sure I've ever met a guy who's as good and patient and thorough a listener as Father Gabriel, although calling him that is not helpful to my current state of arousal. I was brought up in a firmly atheist household, even if it was one that could fully appreciate the glory of Renaissance-era religious art. So I've spent very little time dwelling on priests or priest kinks, or anything of that ilk, aside from occasional musings on what a waste enforced celibacy is for anyone. But give me a truly good man at war with his inner demons, and I am a puddle on the floor. So watching Gabriel get quietly, steadily, involuntarily turned on by our conversation has been a truly exquisite sight to behold. It's hot as fuck when a guy's trying to uphold his morals, while you bash them down, piece by piece, until they're useless rubble on the floor. Right now, Gabriel Sullivan is that guy, surrounded by the pointless debris of his ethics, and totally defenseless against my lack of them. And I want him like this. I want him so addled with desire, so tightly wound by the awful, relentless needs I've stirred up, that he'll be unleashed when I get him upstairs. He smiles tightly at me when the server has cleared away our plates. It's the smile of a man whose blood flow has vacated the top half of his body.
Would you like to see the dessert menu?
I'm the only dessert menu this guy is going to need this evening. I'm fine. Why don't we continue this conversation upstairs? Gabriel has fine blue eyes, like the true Irishman he is, but right now they're practically all pupil.
Are you sure? You don't... Wouldn't you like some time to think about it?
Believe me, I've had all the time I need. I'm perfectly sure. I want you to take me for a spin, Gabriel. He closes his eyes for a second, gathering his inner strength, praying to a god he almost certainly still converses with. I'd feel bad for the guy if I didn't know for sure that his evening is about to get a whole lot better. When he opens them, there's a level of intent in their blue-black depths that he hasn't allowed himself until now. He's been the perfect gentleman, but it looks to me like he's about to turn full predator. I shiver a little.
Apparently I should ask you for a safe word,
He says, his voice strangled. I smile at him. Minerva.
Minerva.
He tries it on for size, but the halting way he says its syllables tells me he's missing the context. Minerva is the Roman equivalent of the goddess Athena, I tell him, and his face brightens.
Got it. I'm not so strong on my polytheistic gods.
I wouldn't expect you to be.
I can recite the names of Roman Catholic saints and martyrs ad nauseam, though. In fact, I've been reciting some of them in my head tonight, in a vain attempt at staving off well, I'm sure you can imagine. Let's get you upstairs.
He keeps a chivalrous hand on the small of my back as we walk through the beautifully festive hotel lobby to the lift. Around us, gold and red-decked Christmas trees stand like sentinels, while fairy lights twinkle softly from wreaths and garlands. I like the light weight of Gabriel's touch, and I fucking adore the anticipation that's coursing through me. I love that we look like a well-heeled couple, retiring to our suite, and that no one but us knows this esteemed gentleman is paying me 5 figures so he can rampage all over my body. So far, we've talked dirty but played nicely. The gloves are about to come off, alongside every other scrap of clothing, and I'll get to see what this guy is capable of. I really, really hope Catholics are as kinky and depraved as they're supposed to be, especially ones who have years of self-denial and shame and guilt to make up for. We're not the only ones in the lift. Gabriel positions himself behind me in the back corner and puts his hands on the dip of my waist before sliding them down to bracket my hips and tugging me back against him. It's an assured move, a possessive one even, and it feels so good after having only had handshakes and cheek kisses. He scoops my hair out of the way and dips his head so he can bury his face in the side of my neck. He inhales hard.
Those fucking photographs.
He growls in my ear, low enough so only I can hear.
Have you any idea what they did to me?
I giggle and push back against what is definitely a semi. I have some idea, yes. One of his hands slides around so he can palm my stomach, gluing us together. I've never understood why, but having a man's large hands fade across my stomach, even through clothing, has always given me enormous pleasure. It feels anchoring and safe, and in this case, ominous in the sexiest possible way. Already, this feels less like an audition, and more like a scorching one-night stand with a tall, dark, and hot-as-hell stranger.
They gave me an idea.
He whispers enigmatically, and then we're excusing ourselves and easing our way out of the lift. Gabriel swipes the keycard and holds the door open before following me into the suite. It's a beautiful space, all plush fabrics in neutral shades. The lamps are lit, and the bed is turned down. Clusters of candles and votives are lit too, their fragrance heady. Jasmine, maybe. I turn to him. Did you ask them to do this? He hesitates.
I popped up here and lit them before dinner. I wanted the right atmosphere.
There's a self-consciousness to his tone that stops me from telling him he doesn't need to bother with details like this for an escort. The only motivations I need are money and this man's looks. But his having pulled out all the stops speaks volumes as to his character. I hate to admit it, but I'm touched. So, instead of dismissing his efforts, I give him a smile. Thank you. It's perfect.
I'm well aware you're auditioning me far more than I'm auditioning you at this point,
he says gruffly. I begin to demur. No, not at all. But he shakes his head.
It's true. And if you do agree to take this position, then we'll be building a relationship. It may be one that's transactional in nature and a little unorthodox from my end anyway. But it's a type of relationship, nonetheless. And I want to make sure you understand from the outset how much I'll respect and value you.
In my audition with Anton Wolfe, he made me roll a condom on him as soon as the door clicked shut behind us, before shoving me up against the wall and fucking me so hard and fast we both saw stars. But this works too. Every word out of this man's mouth tells me what I already know. His integrity is irrefutable. That box is well and truly checked in my head. I'll be safe with Gabriel. Which means I can have all the fun in the world teasing him, tormenting him, until every chivalrous instinct is buried under raw, primal need, and he's driven purely by his dick. I appreciate that. I can tell you're a good man, but I want to see what you're like when you're bad. So tell me about this idea you had.
It can wait a moment,
he says, tugging me towards him with one arm banded around my waist, and the other hand in my hair. Then his mouth is on mine, his lips soft and firm all at once, and I open for him right away. He slides his hand down to my bottom and grips hard, grinding against me as his tongue, taut and insistent, finds mine. He asked me towards the end of dinner if I allowed my employers to kiss me. This isn't Pretty Woman, I told him. For what they pay me, They can do whatever they like. I get the intimacy thing. It's undoubtedly intimate having someone's tongue inside your mouth. But like everything else I let these men do to me, I can handle it. Besides, I adore kissing, and Gabriel, it seems, is an excellent kisser. The way he uses that hot, hungry mouth of his on me is ardent and accomplished and sensual, and for the 100th time since he told me yesterday how much he likes to take it slow, I can't wait to have it between my legs. If he eats pussy as skillfully, as carnally as he kisses, I won't be faking anything. I yield to the kiss, slipping one hand into his hair, short, soft, and allowing the other to roam up his back and across one shoulder. As I suspected, he has the leanly muscled physique of the naturally athletic. I bet he was captain of every team at prep school. This guy has Golden Boy written all over him. As it is, his delts flex under my touch in the most gratifying way before I squeeze his tricep, hard as fuck if you must know. It seems he likes my touch because he angles his head, deepening our kiss, grinding me against his now fully hard dick in a manner that's thorough enough to obliterate any concerns I may have had about him packing anything subscale down there. The little noise I make in the back of my throat isn't remotely strategic. It's a natural reaction to a beautiful man tongue-fucking your mouth and dry-humping your pelvic bone as your needy nipples rub against his chest. And I need more. He breaks the kiss, pulling his face away with a jagged exhale while his hand lingers on my bottom.
Fuck, you're beautiful. And you taste just as delicious as you look.
I place my palms flat on his excellent pecs. You going to let me take care of that now? I ask with a nod at his erection.
Nope. There's something else I need you to do for me first.
Anything? He licks his lips, surveying me. Is there anything more arousing than seeing yourself through the eyes of a man who wants you so badly he can scarcely breathe? I don't think so.
I need you to take off all your clothes. Every last scrap, shoes, stockings, the lot.
I'm enjoying this already.
Go get one of those stools.
He nods at the bar area behind me, where I vaguely noticed that a couple of bar stools stand.
And put it in the center of the room, facing me. Then I want you to sit in it and arrange yourself exactly as you were in that photo in your portfolio. You understand me?
Chapter 9. Athena. I can't be sure how fully Gabriel understands this about me yet, but orders make my knees tremor and my pussy drip. Give me a command, and I positively ache to obey. Say it in that voice, the voice that smacks of need and thinly held vestiges of self-control, and I'm practically coming before you've even touched me. And look at me in a way that suggests you're doing it not because you know I'll get off on it, but because I'm your little fuck toy, and you can do whatever the fuck you want with me, and I simply may not survive. But I'll let him find all that out for himself. The fun way. Instead of spontaneously orgasming in front of him, I let the corners of my mouth curve upwards into a seductive smile and turn slowly. Unzip me. He inhales sharply as he drags the zip down over its metal teeth. This is the first time he's unwrapped me. Thank you, I say as he gets to the bottom. Another turn has me facing him. I shimmy a little, and my little black dress sinks to the floor in an expensive pile of Italian silk and French lace. This dress always pulls its weight at this stage of the process. Equally expensive is my gorgeous Dior lingerie, slate grey satin with a black lace trim. A large part of my brand, my allure, is appearing exclusive, expensive, out of reach, if you like. It gives men a far greater thrill when they actually get me. I afford him a good look as I step out from the puddle of my dress and kick off my heels. Without them, I'm a good 4 inches shorter, and it throws the power balance further off kilter. He's watching me in silence, his face almost stricken. I look up at him through my lashes. "Can you help me with my stockings?" I ask him, putting a hand on his shoulder and holding up one leg.
Of course.
He murmurs, fiddling a little with the suspender clip at the front before it releases, and he moves to the back. He glances at me, and I nod my permission before he rolls the stocking down my leg and pulls it off, making quicker work of the second one. "Thank you," I purr, before taking a step backwards so he can better enjoy the show. I lose the suspender belt and fix my eyes on him as I reach behind to unclip my bra. I love my breasts. They're full and round and soft and gravitationally superior. I slide the bra off, and he makes a noise at the back of his throat that's very promising indeed. When I hook my thumbs into the side of my thong and tug that down, exposing my almost bare pussy with its neat little landing strip, his lips part. Our eyes meet once more, before I turn away in search of the bar stool. This way, he gets to assess me from behind, to learn the way my hips sway and my arse cheeks move as I walk away from him. I fetch the stool and set it right in the center of the room. He watches avidly with those dark blue eyes as I climb elegantly up. He shoved his hands in his pockets, a move that tells me he doesn't trust himself, and which serves to put even more pressure on the fabric straining around his erection. I love that he's still. I love that he's watching me, that he can't take his eyes off me. Not for a second. I love that he's clearly been thinking about that photo of me since he saw it last week and has had the ingenuity to recreate it. The stool has a padded seat covered in silky damask. I shimmy forward slightly until I'm comfortable. My hair is cascading down over my breasts. I shake my head to get it off my shoulders and give him a better view. Then, slowly, deliberately, I cup my breast, resting my forearm on the armrest. I balance my toes on the stool's rung and open my knees. I reach down and find my pussy. God, I'm slippery. I hold myself open and look straight at him. How's this?
It's perfect. You're fucking perfect, aren't you?
As long as I'm what you want, that's good enough for me. He shakes his head.
Stay still for me so I can enjoy you.
He's motionless too. His face is rapt as he simply drinks me in. If it wasn't for that aggressive-looking erection, he could still be a priest, standing in front of Raphael's Aldobradini Madonna for the first time, lost in the rapturous stillness that truly great art provokes. I wonder if he's musing on what to do with me. I know exactly what I want him to do with me. His eyes flit down to my glossy burgundy toenails and back up, his gaze sliding over my body. The total silence in the room adds to the weight of anticipation I feel in this moment. I can hear my heart thumping in my ear canals. I'm aware of every ragged inhale and exhale I take, traveling through my nostrils. The room is warm, but I'm covered in goosebumps, and my nipples are already painfully taut. He draws closer, and I tilt my head back so I can gaze up at him. His first touch is that of tugging my hair fully off one shoulder. The warmth of his fingertips has me wanting to arch into him like a cat, but then the same fingertips are trailing down over my collarbone and further south, until he finds the breast I'm not cupping. It's already so intense, this silence, his proximity to me, his torturously light touch. So when his fingers close around my nipple and he pinches it hard, it takes me by surprise. I let out an involuntary whimper, my body reacting instantly. Sex hormones lace my blood with what feels like opium. My biochemistry is already screaming.
Fuck.
He rolls my nipple between his fingers without loosening his grip. I could come just from this.
It's so pretty. God, I could play with these all night.
He reaches up and gives my other nipple the same treatment, pinching it hard, rolling it. I let my mouth drop open as I gaze at him, at the workings of his jaw as he explores my body. More gently, he takes the hand cupping my breast and lowers it to my thigh, so he can weigh both breasts in his hands, squeezing them as his thumbs work my nipples.
I could do this to you in the office, couldn't I? I could just play with you whenever I wanted to.
Yes, you can do anything you want to me. I told you, I'm your fuck toy. He pushes them together, assessing my cleavage.
I'd love to see these around my dick. I can't imagine how good it would feel.
I want to do that for you, I tell him, trying not to squirm on the seat. He's ordered me to stay still after all, but the sexual energy coursing through my body has me lit up from the inside.
God, we'll never get any work done. I told you, the way you look will be a major, major problem. Now, let's see the rest of you. Keep holding yourself open for me. That's a good girl.
He releases both my breasts, and I pout, but my fingers keep a grip on my slippery pussy. With one hand, he grips my chin firmly so I can't look away from him. And the other, it skates down over my stomach, causing a fresh outbreak of goosebumps, and then he's sliding his fingers down my landing strip. When they hit my clit, I gasp, my eyes widening, and he grins wolfishly. God, I love that. He finds my entrance and pushes 2 fingers in hard. Our faces are so close, and the satisfied gleam in his eyes as he feels me from the inside is almost as hot as the sensation of being filled up.
Jesus Christ,
he says, and I mentally clock getting a former priest to blaspheme as a pretty positive sign.
You're so ridiculously wet and so tight.
I've been like this the whole way through dinner.
Have you now?
He shoves his fingers in deeper and crooks them right as his thumb finds my clit again. It's perfect, just perfect. And I'm so wound up and so close that I might embarrass myself by coming before he's even got started with me. Shit, I say, letting out a shuddery breath. He gazes at me intently.
You okay?
Just trying to hold off.
Let's slow it down then. I want to have way more fun with you.
With that, he lifts his thumb off my clit and bends to kiss me as he fucks me in a leisurely fashion with his fingers. I clench around them as I kiss him back, trying to communicate with my lips and tongue just how aroused I am. Naked and writhing on a stool, while a gorgeous, powerful, fully dressed man samples my body is pretty much nirvana for me. Chapter 10. Athena. He pulls away, releasing my jaw and withdrawing his fingers, before lowering himself elegantly to his knees. He leans in to inspect my pussy, so close I can feel the torturously light kiss of his breath on my exposed flesh. I'm so wet now, my fingers are losing their grip. When he speaks, the timbre of his voice is as low, as rough as I've heard it so far.
I want to get an invoice from the hotel later this week to replace the fabric on this stool, because you ruined it so thoroughly with the mess you've made.
He glances up at me, and I stare back at his beautiful eyes and ravenous expression and sensual mouth. Arousal is coursing through me, treacle thick and heady. I need that mouth on me now, but I'm also beginning to realize that I've seriously underestimated this guy's capacity for filth, and it's the most glorious kind of epiphany. I already know that I'll let him do whatever the fuck he likes to me when he has me in that office. That won't be a problem. Permission to show you? A curt nod. I slide my fingers inside my body, avoiding my clit, which is an unexploded grenade in this moment. I am absolutely soaking. I pull them out and wipe them on the damask, leaving a slick streak that darkens the cream fabric.
Perfect. Obedient little thing, aren't you? Keep your hands on the armrests.
It seems he wants to reward me, because he leans in and takes one nipple in his mouth, groaning deeply as he sucks on it. It's so fucking good, and I want to clutch at his head and hold him to my breast so he can suck for dear life. But my obedience is more important than my pleasure just now. Besides, I have a feeling he'll make it worth my while, if I'm a good girl. So I do my best to arch against his mouth, as my hands claw at the ends of the armrests, and I take the agonized arousal he's provoking in me, and I revel in it. After sampling my other breast, he pops off and kisses down my stomach, putting his hands on my knees to hold them further apart. Oh, please, oh, please, oh, please. For a moment, he just kneels there and stares. Then he says in a voice laced with hunger,
I've been imagining what this little pink cunt would taste like since I saw that fucking photograph.
How can a man who, until recently, used his words to turn bread and water into the body and blood of Christ, and to extol the glory of God, have such a filthy mouth? Didn't he have to unlearn all that shit at the seminary? His mouth is about 3 inches from my poor, throbbing pussy. I love that he's been imagining this, that I've been an actual fantasy for him, rather than just some candidate who passed muster. I don't speak. I can't. I sit there, thigh muscles straining beneath the firmness of his grip, and I watch as he shoots me one last filthy look before dipping that dark head and taking his first lick. It's long and thorough. He licks me from my entrance to my clit before murmuring his approval, and I buck. Oh God, oh God, oh God! Another lick.
Fucking delectable.
He mutters gruffly, and then he's leaning in and really going to town on me with decadent pulls of my clit before he makes his tongue taut and indulges in some excellent tongue-fucking. My entire pussy is pulsing so hard that all I can do is gasp and moan and hold on to those armrests for dear life. I'm not going to last, I manage. I'm too turned on.
Good. Don't move a muscle.
He releases one knee so he can drive a couple of long fingers back inside me, thrusting and crooking and twisting so perfectly that I bite down hard on my lip to stop myself from rutting against his face like the greedy little whore that I am. The look he gives me as he glances up, his beautiful mouth wet with me, and his eyes the dark, depraved eyes of a man on the brink, makes me shiver. He may be the one calling the shots, but I'm getting every single thing I want from this little scene, and I'm not talking about the 25 grand that landed in my bank account this morning. Although, the fact that he's paying me for this, that he's this desperate to get me alone and naked and at his bidding in a hotel suite, is disgustingly arousing all on its own.
I can't wait to see you come.
He mutters as I stare down at him.
You're so angelic looking. I can't wait to see what you're like when you let yourself go.
You'll find out in about 20 seconds, I promise him, and he lets out a pained laugh.
You certainly know how to galvanize a fellow. Okay, sweetheart, let's see it.
With that, he lowers his head and gets back to work, really letting me have it. His fingers burn as they work in and out of me. His tongue laves my clit with licks that would be rough if I wasn't so ridiculously soaking. It's almost perfect, except permission to play with my nipples.
God, yes.
With a relieved exhale, I reach up and pinch my nipples, closing that sacred circuit and ramping up my pleasure tenfold. I'm so close. I'm so close. He angles his head so he can keep licking me as he watches me play with my breasts, his eyes flashing with delighted disbelief. If he likes this sight, he'll soon be able to enjoy it every single day if he wants. The thought of Gabriel instructing me to sit on his desk and get my tits out, to tug and pinch and play while he reads or takes calls or fondles my pussy, is so incredibly stirring that it sends me over the edge. I pinch my nipples harder and widen my legs as much as humanly possible as he works every fucking nerve ending in my pussy with his clever fingers and magical tongue. In my experience, the men who employ me get off on two things. They love having me be a quiet, submissive, plant little mouse while they build me up, but they adore it when I finally fall apart. I think it comes back to that decorous appearance of mine. My looks, my clothes, my demeanor, my intellect, all of it screams untouchable. So when I'm screaming and writhing and begging, when my eye makeup streaks and my lipstick smudges, and my pale skin is stained with that unmistakable flush of orgasm, and, more often than not, branded with someone's mouth or teeth or cum, it sends them fucking feral. Because they haven't just fucked a woman. They've claimed one who seemed out of reach. Not merely claimed her, but conquered her. And their egos tell them they've won a glittering prize. Happily for everyone involved, I love both aspects. I love submitting. I love trembling with the sheer effort it takes me to stay quiet and still like a good girl. I love how all that energy I'm repressing adds to the build. And I love coming apart and casting off that demure persona and letting out my greedy, wanton little inner slut. Believe me, I adore the effect these men have on me as much as they do. So when the almighty cacophony of Gabriel's fingers and tongue and my own fingers builds and builds and crescendos into a climax so powerful it should shatter every mirror, every window in this suite, I let my little slut out, letting go of one nipple so I can push my fingers through his short, dark hair and crush his mouth to my rapacious pussy and milk every fucking drop of sensation he's willing to provide as my whimpers turn into cry after cry and heat, heady and powerful, pulls me under to a place where I'm neither my appearance nor my profession, but merely a woman. A woman in a state of ecstasy so transcendent, it almost makes me believe in a higher power.
Chapter 11. Gabe. I've broken her, and it's magnificent in the same way that witnessing an all-powerful wave crest and break and dissolve into a mesmerizing froth is magnificent. She's magnificent. This assured young woman who has not put a foot wrong since we met yesterday, whose every word and gesture have been premeditated and purposeful and flawlessly delivered, has her hand clamped around my head, smashing my mouth against her cunt, her astounding body racked with sobs, with shudders, as she rides out the mother of all orgasms against my tongue. If I wasn't already reeling, drunk on her scent, I would be now. I can feel her inner walls convulsing around my fingers as I work my tongue as roughly as I can against the slick button of her clit. It's fucking soaking down here, her arousal coating my fingers and dripping down over my knuckles. Even when I order her to make a mess, she's an overachiever. I groan against her flesh, lapping her up, drinking her in greedily as her orgasm ebbs away. My cock is an iron bar in my trousers, reducing my headspace to one single thought. It needs to replace my fingers, to push into that tight channel that's so ridiculously, so thoroughly primed for me. She loosens her grip on my head with a shaky, self-conscious little laugh that has me easing my mouth off her pussy and kissing her inner thigh, before raising my head so I can take her in. She's looking down at me, those huge hazel eyes glassy. Her hair and makeup are still immaculate, but she looks softer somehow, more vulnerable. I ease myself gingerly to standing, my agonizingly hard dick jerking in outrage at the friction of my trousers against it. You taste even sexier than you look, I say, sliding my hands under her jaw and tipping her face upwards. And that's saying something, believe me. After I've kissed her, fleetingly but sufficiently for her to taste herself on my lips, I help her off the stool. Look, I say, pointing at the stool's fabric seat as I band my other arm around the soft skin of her waist. What a very messy girl you are. I'd love nothing more than to throw her on the bed and stay fully clothed as I rail her. But I'm conscious this is as much of an audition for me as it is for her. It's only fair she sees the goods before she signs on the dotted line. Undress me quickly so I can get inside you, I tell her instead. I'm about to shoot my load after that. The look she shoots me is downright lascivious as she gets to work, unbuttoning my shirt with swift movements and tugging the tails out from my waistband. She makes quick work of it, and it's off in a moment.
Let me take the edge off.
She purrs, unbuckling my belt.
I'll suck your dick now, and then you can take your time fucking me.
I groan, because my dick would like that very much, but I've obsessed about this over the past few days. I told you I was a patient man. I'd very much like the first time you suck it to be when you start working for me. If you take the job, obviously. She gives a little moan.
That's hot. You can get me on my knees as soon as I walk in the door for all I care.
She accompanies this by sliding her dainty little hand into my unzipped trousers and palming me through my boxers, and holy fuck. If I'm not inside her in the next 30 seconds, I'll die. I'll actually expire. So I assist her by means of shoving my trousers down and hopping around as I clumsily wrench off my socks and shoes. My final move is to send my wallet, into which I've stuffed a few condoms, flying onto the bed. When I'm standing straight again, she steps right up to me so she can run her lips and nose along the ridge of my shoulder before sliding her hand inside my boxers and wrapping it around my cock.
Fuck,
she says against my skin. On the bed. Now. She releases me.
How do you want me?
Dear God. On your back, so I can see you. I lose the boxers as she trots over to the bed, arranging herself prettily on her back. I waste no time in climbing on and ranging over her. My dick may be pointing angrily at her, but I am a master of delayed gratification. And taking in the astonishing beauty of this naked woman lying splayed beneath me on the sumptuous white bed linen is gratifying indeed. She's staring up at me, her eyes flickering from my face to my erection and back again, her expression playful and curious. I reach out and caress her breast, allowing my hand to skate downwards over the curves of her body until it rests on her hip. She is every lonely, starving fantasy I've ever tried to stifle throughout my years of pledged celibacy. The male of the species is shown from the very first pages of Genesis to be pathetically ill-equipped to withstand temptation. This Eve, with her perfect body and entrancing eyes and silken tresses, is the ultimate seducer, and every glorious curve is as ripe, as decadent as that forbidden fruit must have been to Adam. As we gaze at each other, she moves her leg, stroking the arch of her foot along my calf.
I'm not just saying this, but you are fucking gorgeous. You must have had women throwing themselves at you after Mass every day of the week. I know I would have.
I laugh and reach back to grab her ankle. The women of my parish had a healthy respect for the office of the priesthood. She wrinkles her sweet little nose.
How revoltingly virtuous. And it's their loss, because I'm the one who's got you naked. You going to show me what damage you can do with that thing? Or are you just going to make me stare at it all night?
I shake my head as I release her ankle, so I can reach for my wallet. She is a piece of work, and if I should be deluded enough to think for a moment I'll be calling the shots with her, I suspect I'll only have myself to blame for the fallout. I'm absolutely not going to make you stare at it all night. No, I say, as I rip open the foil of one condom and pinch the tip. I'd far rather be buried deep inside you. I pause, grimacing as I roll the latex over my terrifyingly engorged crown. But I've been looking forward to this moment, in a way, since Anton and Max sang your praises. so I'd like to savor the moment, if that's okay with you. She's not looking at my face. Instead, her eyes are glued to my dick as I sheath it.
If you're asking whether I can wait a few more seconds until you unleash weeks of anticipation and years of tragic celibacy on my body, then the answer is yes. I can certainly accommodate that.
Despite myself, I grin. She's funnier than I expected, which makes sense because a person this smart would of course be witty. Besides, in this profession, she presumably needs a decent sense of humor.
You're very intense,
she notes, cocking her head to one side. Her eyes have, amazingly enough, travelled back to my face.
I can't wait to see if you're this intense when you fuck.
I absolutely am, I assure her, as I wedge one arm under her and flip her over. She goes with a little squeal of surprise, but scrambles to her knees like the pro she is. You want it intense, I say by way of explanation, and she makes a pleased humming sound. She's waving that lovely, pale bottom in my face, her bare cunt pink and glistening and marvellous, and all of it is a red rag to a fucking bull. Before she can reply, I notch myself at her entrance. This okay?
God, yes.
She moans with a little shimmy of her hips. Good, I say, and I push in. I move harder than I usually would, but she's like the Niagara Falls down here, so I'm assuming lubrication is not a problem. It strikes me in this moment, as I wedge myself inside her inch by excruciating inch, that it is apt indeed that she's named after a goddess, because I've had sex, plenty of sex, since I threw myself headfirst down my rabbit hole of sinful secularism. But Athena is on a different level. I'm unsure just how fucked up it is that the most transactional, the only transactional sex I've had is shaping up to be the least perfunctory by far. Perhaps in this, as in all things, you get what you pay for. She's shaking as she takes me in. I release my dick, which is now wedged far enough inside her to direct itself, and grip her hip as I run my other hand down the delicate ridges of her spinal column. In this moment, as I bottom out, they seem as sacred as a rosary. A man could find peace here, buried astonishingly deep inside her, while his fingers move along the exquisite knots of her spine, just as they might slide over prayer beads. Even with the torturous burning of my need for release, my arousal flying around me like a maelstrom, there's a kind of peace here, a hyper-presence at the heart of this storm. We Catholics have a rich history of finding stillness in the confrontation of physical discomfort. Is my desperate need to rot and rot until I've emptied myself inside the vessel of Athena's opulent body any less effective than whips or hair shirts or hot coals? I don't think so. But being on the cusp of fucking Athena senseless is undoubtedly a pleasure of the flesh, and I do well to luxuriate in it, to soak myself in every last drop of the filth and depravity this moment offers. And I do. I fucking do. I'm going to move, I tell her, dragging my fingers back down over those rosary beads so I can grip both hips, because there is a time for praying and there is a time for acting.
Do it,
she begs. Her voice and her warmth and the tight glove of her body are enough to send a fellow insane. I pull out and drive back in, the glow of pleasure lighting me up as I bottom out again. She shunts forward with a small moan before righting herself and pushing back against me. Fucking hell. I brace on one hand so I can explore the lavish weight of her tits as they hang free. Her nipples are still rock hard, and I pinch one before caressing her whole breast. Something godless and feral and base comes over me. A surge of satisfaction that I am inside this most glittering prize, this most magical woman. Fuck! You're worth every penny, I grit out as I ram into her again.
Better make good use of me,
she says, breathing heavily.
Think about how crazy that photo of me holding my pussy open for you made me, like it was an invitation, and now you're inside it.
Fuck yeah, I agree, driving mindlessly into her. That fleeting moment of stillness has shattered and my dick has taken over.
You just bought yourself one of the most exclusive whores in the country.
She continues, standing her ground valiantly as I fuck her.
And you can do anything to me. I can't wait for you to tie me up and show me off and debase me and do whatever the fuck you want.
A sickening arousal courses over me. You like that? You like being reminded that you're a whore while I fuck you like this, on your hands and knees?
I need it,
she admits brokenly. I didn't know absolution could be like this. What kind of fucked up paradise am I in? I wonder as I fuck her and fuck her and fuck her, where absolution comes from the acknowledgement that I can, in fact, lean into every filthy, debasing urge I have, because it's not only what she likes, but what she needs. Dear Lord, I am so fucking damned. I'm going to spend every day until you start this job, thinking up ways to put you to work. I tell her, with the bravado of a man so galvanized by the high of imminent orgasm that everything seems possible and permissible. I reach forward with one hand and wrap a thick rope of her beautiful hair around my fist, angling her head to one side so I can see the workings of her jaw and throat as her own pleasure grows.
Oh God, please do. You can do anything.
Her words, her breaths, are growing more ragged with each thrust.
Oh fuck, I'm...
And she lets herself go. The pure joy and relief I feel as she convulses around me, giving me her blessing to let myself hurtle through galaxies filled with white-hot pleasure, is indescribable. I'm aware of the low, bestial noises I make as I rut and empty, of the soaring, wondrous, light-filled euphoria coursing through me. As I come down from my impossible high, I release her hair and smooth my hand down her back. All thoughts of prayers are gone. I don't fucking need them. I ease carefully out of Athena's body and help her onto her side. Wait, I tell her, clambering off the bed with my fingers holding the condom on. Don't move. In the bathroom, I dispose of the condom quickly and grab her a robe. I have no idea if a woman who's been paid for sex has more or less post-coital vulnerability than other women, but I'm not about to take any chances. After the mother of all orgasms, I'd like to think my despicably base urges are sated, and I can think and act like a man for whom compassion has been his literal job. When I come back through to the main suite, she's lying on her side, facing the center of the bed, one leg pulled up and one laid out. She looks otherworldly beautiful, pretty fucking satisfied, and not overtly self-conscious. Hey, I say, climbing on and laying the robe over her before I lie down to face her. She gazes at me through her thick eyelashes, giving me a dazed little smile. She looks like she's momentarily lost a couple of IQ points, which I'm unfeasibly pleased about.
That's very thoughtful. Thank you.
I didn't want you to feel uncomfortable, so I trail off and prop myself up on one elbow so I can enjoy the view. Are you feeling okay? A little laugh.
Yes. I am very okay.
My parents definitely didn't raise me to employ high-class hookers in my workplace, but neither did they raise me to treat any woman with less than the full respect she merits. And Athena may have got off on being spoken to like a whore just now, but it's clear to anyone who meets her that she is an incredible woman who deserves to be treated like the goddess she is. As far as I'm concerned, the moment we both come down from our orgasms is the moment that demeaning talk stops and I demonstrate the full force of my esteem. Glad to hear it, I say now. That was, I blow out a breath, fucking spectacular.
Yeah, it was hot as fuck.
Excellent. I clear my throat as I lay a hand on her hip through the robe. So the obvious question is, when can you start? She laughs, but there's a pleased flush on her face that I really like.
I've got the job.
Now it's my turn to laugh. You've got the job 1,000,000 times over if you'll take it. I'm so fucking sold it's not funny. She sits up, letting the robe slide off her, and I admire the generous swell of her breasts, the perfect pinkness of her still taut nipples against her creamy skin. She gets her arms through the sleeves of the robe and pulls it loosely closed around her, leaving it untied. I rise reluctantly to sitting and place a spare pillow over my dick, because it seems she's already shifted into work mode.
Okay.
She says, eyes narrowing as she surveys me.
Let's do this.
Really? I passed. A broad grin splits my face, and she shakes her head at the sight of it.
Let's just say you scrape through, by the skin of your teeth.
Those 2 toe-curling orgasms I gave her tell a different story, but I'll let her have this. Glad to hear it. So, when can you start? What's the score with giving notice? She screws up her face.
Technically, there's no notice period. That's to protect the Seraphim if we want to get out of a position quickly. But I'd never do that to my current employer. So, let's say a month. I owe him that at least. I'll hand in my notice as soon as I receive your formal offer letter.
She'll have that letter in her inbox by tomorrow, if I have my way. A month? Jesus, kill me now.
You'll survive. I'm sure your current EA, Gladys, wasn't it, can jerk you off if you get too wound up.
Please don't even joke about that.
Well, you can take yourself off to alchemy. Try to stay awake this time. You're a big boy, you'll handle it. And I'd like to start reading up on the business in more detail while I'm working out my notice. I'll sign an NDA with the offer letter, so you can share your data with me.
Sounds good, I say forlornly. A whole fucking month.
It'll fly by, especially with Christmas.
She pats me on the shoulder as she slides off the bed, wrapping her robe more tightly around her.
Besides, you told me you like taking things slow. Remember?
Chapter 12. Gabe. Debussy observed that it's the space between the notes that holds the music, and in my previous vocation, I often observed something similar. It was the pauses, the voids, when my heart felt fullest and God felt closest. While I delight in my faith's love of pomp and ceremony as much as the next Catholic, I've often wondered if those early Protestants, those first Solifidians, were onto something. They proposed the concept of faith alone, sola fide, being enough. A void entreats us to fill it, you see. A nullity invites prayer in a very different way than the heart-swelling, gladdening triumph of soaring voices or the towering, almost architectural layers of organ music do. Some of the times I've communed most effortlessly with God have, in fact, been when my faith stepped in all its unfathomable, swirling, glorious abundance, to fill a void. There have been a couple of instances at the end of Good Friday services, even, when I've undertaken that systematically solemn act of stripping the altar. I've removed the altar cloth, leaving the altar itself as bare and desolate and hopeless as that cross was when they took Christ's body down from it. I've snuffed out candles and shrouded crucifixes in the bleakest, blackest cloths, and had my altar boys bear away armfuls of flowers, and I would swear on the relics of any saint that, on an occasion that should feel starkly grieving, I have found myself aglow from within. It's almost as if, having extinguished the ever-burning sanctuary light by the tabernacle, I have obliterated every last visual trapping that tethers us poor, blind sinners to the path, to the truth, leaving one last thing: faith. As if it's only when everything else has been brutally gutted that I can find the space to feel, to hear, to see that faith, small and quiet, but palpable and brave. The more I sink into this quicksand of lay life, especially my particular brand of lay life, with its money and trappings and equally shiny cars and women, the more I become numbed against that plucky, lambent faith, the more I become deafened to its quiet voice. If I have earthly riches beyond what is probable or decent or fair, there's a spiritual paucity in my life these days that my fleeting moments with my rosary or book of hours simply cannot fill, and I feel it like an itch, like the abrasive reminder of a horsehair shirt. It's ironic, perhaps, that I should spend the anniversary of Christ's birth musing on the odd but certain comfort that celebrating his death has brought me in the past. I went to midnight mass last night. Not at my old parish, no fucking way, but at Farm Street in Mayfair. If the sprawling, gilded Brompton Oratory is where you'll see London's Spanish and French and Italian populations decked out in all their finery, Farm Street is where that small and curious cultural minority flocks, upper-class English papists. Midnight mass tends to give me what daytime mass on Christmas Day does not: peace and quiet, a hushed solemnity, an understanding that we are gathered in the middle of one of the darkest nights of the year to celebrate Christ's birth on the very cusp of that miraculous day. Sadly, my attendance there last night was steeped in pragmatism, as I was required this morning at my parents' house out near Newmarket, just past Cambridge, for a day of revelry, Sullivan style. Let me state for the record that if nature likes to claim it abhors a vacuum, it hasn't met my family. Voids are anathema to the Sullivan clan, and voids in conversation are deemed almost as intolerable as voids in wine glasses. This year, like every year, I will not spend the Lord's birthday cultivating enough space to hear my flame of faith flicker bravely into being. Not on your life. I'm currently sitting on an overstuffed floral sofa, nursing a pint of black velvet in an old silver tankard, while trying valiantly to pace myself ahead of what I know will be a long and boozy lunch. My beverage may sound luxurious, but, at half Guinness and half champagne, is absolutely fucking lethal. Not to mention a spectacular waste of vintage Bollinger. Why they don't use bog-standard champagne for these I've never understood. I have my tankard angled towards me, so no one can see its contents. If Dad thinks it looks too full, he'll be pissed off that I'm not pulling my weight. If my brother Brendan thinks it looks too empty, he'll try to top me up. Thank God it's opaque. Mum's on straight Bollinger, as are most of the other women in the room, mainly local friends of my parents. Given our proximity to the famous Newmarket racecourse, the crowd around here is seriously horsey. The only people not getting stuck in are a few designated drivers who are on low-alc beers. If I didn't require social lubrication quite so desperately to get me through the rest of the day, I would have volunteered to ferry people home. As it is, my plan is to maintain a steady, low-level buzz and avoid attention where possible.
"Come and chat to us for fuck's sake, Gabe!"
Dad booms in a thick Dublin accent from the huge stone fireplace where he and Mum are holding court. My parents' high social standing around here is well-deserved and easily explained. They're fucking loaded, highly sociable, and way too generous when they host, which is a lot. Not to mention this house we grew up in is gorgeous. Over-furnished, but gorgeous, and a far cry from the slums near the Dublin docks where Dad grew up as a young lad, where the privy was out the back, and he, as the eldest boy, had the great fortune to get the first go in the warmish, cleanish bathwater when the 7 kids had their weekly washes. Apparently, his youngest brother, Niall, grew up knowing only cold baths laced with his 6 older siblings' piss. Poor fucker. I force myself off the sofa and amble over to the gaggle of men and women at the fireplace, with a smile I hope belies my reluctance. Gerald, one of my parents' 3 lurchers, presses his long, shaggy face to my thigh, and I reach down to rub him sympathetically between the ears. He, too, hates a full house. Here! After a cursory glance at the 2-inch gap in the top of my tankard, Brendan tops me up with 2 hands, pouring draft Guinness from a can with one hand and Bolly with the other. Try doing that after dinner and see how much you spill, I tell him, and he grins broadly. You're on! Brendan and I are what's known impolitely as Irish twins. I arrived 11 months after him, a fact that makes me very fucking angry on behalf of my mother. Not even in my days as a priest have I ever been comfortable with the church's take on contraception. There are some areas where pragmatism and compassion and human fucking decency trump ancient theological tenets. Birth control is one of them. It's often said that I should have been the eldest. I am, after all, far more responsible than Bren, but I don't necessarily agree. He's the doer, I'm the thinker. And while I was enjoying a profession where thought was integral, Brendan was working his way up in our family's core construction business, assuming the helm before the IPO a few years back and proving himself. He's impressively smart and impressively driven, but when he's not at work, he's terrifyingly basic. Or base, perhaps. Both, or either. I say that with love, but it's true. Case in point, the wink he gives the young woman who's handing around the canapes. She can't be more than 19 or 20, and my brother's winks are lascivious enough to knock a girl up. I shake my head at him. It's a good-natured shake, but still. I'm sure it delivers a message. "Loosen the fuck up, Angel Gabriel," he says, slamming the Bollinger down on a side table. "It's Christmas Day, for fuck's sake, Jesus Christ."
Language, Bren,
Mum says, tutting.
Our Brendan has women coming out of his ears,
Dad tells his cronies proudly.
What happened with that blonde you met at the 2:30 last Saturday? She was pure class.
A gentleman never tells, my brother says with a grin that suggests neither he nor the blonde he picked up at the races behaved in a remotely classy way.
But what about Gabe? I hear you've got a smoking hot new assistant, mate.
He accompanies this titbit by shaking his fingers out and pretending to blow on them. Bloody Gladys. She met Athena briefly last week when the latter came in to pick up some paperwork. Apparently, reading annual reports over Christmas is my new EA's idea of a good time. Anyway, I assume Gladys blabbed. She's extremely highly qualified, and I think she'll be a great fit. I say with all the moral outrage of a man who absolutely does not know just how lovely a fit his employee's pretty pink cunt is for him. And she's hot, my dickhead brother pushes. I frown at him. I'm a former priest, for heaven's sake. I can keep up the self-righteousness all day long. She's attractive, yes, but that's not why I hired her.
Nobody blame you, son, Dad says. God knows no one would begrudge you a pretty face to look at after all those years of keeping your dick dry.
Mum, whose face is turning gradually redder with every champagne top-up my brother provides, looks like she might actually fall down dead from the shame of it. It's bad enough, in her eyes, having a former priest in the family, without one's spouse bringing it up in front of all the neighbours.
Ronan Sullivan, that's a shocking, sinful thing to say. You know Gabriel only left to take over the reins so you could sit on your arse all day and gamble.
Aye, thanks, son,
Dad says, not remotely bothered.
You're doing a grand job. I'm very proud of both my boys. But your mammy and I wouldn't mind some more grandchildren before we die of old age. Unless you want us to leave everything to Elsie.
Elsie, my sister Mairead's eldest, is a holy terror. Better get Bren on the case. I'm still getting used to being allowed to date, I say, weakly, earning a dirty cackle from my brother, who knows all about my little alchemy habit. He's asked me to put him forward for membership, and I've refused point blank. The last thing I want is to bump into my degenerate brother stark naked and slap bang in the middle of an orgy on a random Thursday night. Although, if things work out well with Athena, I won't need my membership much. Unless I want to take her there and have some playtime with her. Her CV did say she was into group fun after all. Now there's a thought. One thing's for sure, though. I have no intention of letting my brother anywhere near Athena or the little secret she and I are hiding. Mum's saying something.
Try and stay sober till we sit down for lunch, will you?
She mutters in my ear.
I'd like you to say grace.
This time last year I was saying mass. Now I'm demoted to saying grace for a bunch of rich pissheads, and I have no one to blame but myself. I pat the sparkly lavender tweed covering her arm. Of course, I say absently. It might be the only 30 seconds of contemplation I get today.
Chapter 13. Athena. Tonight is New Year's Eve. We're planning on ringing in the new year by eating nachos and listening to Madison Beer and Olivia Rodrigo and Gracie Abrams, because when one of you is 8 years old, you're not letting anyone else dictate the playlist. I was supposed to be hosting, but instead we're hanging at my best friend Marlowe's tiny flat. Her daughter Tabby is usually the first to accept an invitation for a sleepover at mine, but not this Christmas. The reason? Last week, Father Christmas delivered the most spectacularly girly tent mankind has ever seen to Marlowe's living room, and there's no way Tabby is leaving it, even for one night. The tent, bedecked and bedazzled way beyond anything Tabby asked for in her letter to Father Christmas, mysteriously showed up in their living area on Christmas morning. In reality, I'd paid through the nose for a handyman to dress up as Father Christmas, just in case Tabby woke up, and put the tent up late on Christmas Eve. It's now sitting pretty where it belongs, in Tabby's bedroom, as are we. Marlowe and I are shoehorned into the tent alongside Tabby, a can of Sprite, 2 glasses of champagne, and a bowl of seriously tasty cheese and onion crisps. Good times. When Marlowe mentioned that Tabby had asked Father Christmas for a tent, and she was stumped as to how to make it super magical, I may have hijacked the operation slightly. Tabby had, to be clear, requested a tent as cool as the one from the holiday, which I naturally sniffed at. Don't get me wrong, it's a cute tent and a stunningly well-crafted scene. But why think small when you can create something extraordinary? Marlowe is far too linear, God bless her, too constrained. She's also skint, with every last penny of her savings ring-fenced for a cause far more critical than a tent. Which is where godmothers come in. I immediately contacted the personal shoppers at Harrods, who were happy to commission and furnish a bespoke, 4-sided but compact tent for Tabs. When Marlowe hit the roof, which predictably enough she did, I had one rejoinder. This isn't about a tent, you realise. You could have gone to IKEA for that, like everything else in her flat. This is about ramming home a very important message to a sick little girl, that sometimes, in a world full of shitty disappointments, sometimes, just sometimes, life not only delivers, but blows your fucking mind. It's always worth believing. If nothing else, I want to help you teach her that. She hugged me then, and we both cried a little. I know I can be overbearing, and I know a part of Marlowe disapproves of my irresponsible spending habits, especially when it comes to Tabby. But whatever I can do to help drum an abundance mindset into that fiercely intelligent little brain, I'll consider time and money well spent. Not to mention, the tent is fucking amazing. It's been crafted from a double layer of ivory cotton, embroidered with gold stars. The fabric of its ceiling is gathered into a central point, from which hangs a battery-operated rotating disco ball. No cut-out paper stars for us. There's even a beautifully carved, hot pink lacquered cabinet housing Tabby's medication. It comes with a sturdy heart-shaped padlock, the key to which Marlowe is wearing around her neck. But my favourite part of the whole setup is the child-sized sleeping bag/camp bed inside the tent, made from palest pink faux fur, with an integrated memory foam mattress, so she can camp out here in grand style. "Go into the living room," she orders now with an imperious wave of her hand. "I want to play doctors and nurses, and you're taking up all the space." "Right you are," Marlowe tells her with a kiss to her forehead. "Call us on the walkie-talkie if you want company." "Don't forget to take her temperature," I say, nodding at the doll who's supposed to be incapacitated. I clamber inelegantly out on my hands and knees and blow Tabs a kiss before following Marlowe through to the small kitchen-cum-living room. To her credit, she's done as good a job as she can with the place. It's pretty and homely, and most importantly, safe. Or as safe as it can be in New Cross, which is a total shithole. Because I spent Christmas with my parents in Cologne, and thence took a cheeky couple of days to myself at Baden-Baden, today's been my first in-situ experience of the tent. I'm absolutely thrilled at how delirious Tabby is with her new home. All little girls deserve to dream big, especially the ones who've already had to endure shit most adults can't imagine. Hopefully, that tent will be a refuge for Tabs. She can dream big in there, but she can also make herself small and secure when she feels the need. She can rest there when she's exhausted, but she still feels like playing. It's an investment in her joy, essentially, and I can't think of a better way to spend my excess cash. God knows, I understand better than a lot of people the power of having a sanctuary that's all yours. A restorative haven where you can shut the door and heal from all the craziness. As I told Tabby earlier, every princess needs her castle, and every great warrior needs her retreat. Okay, Marlowe says, fiddling with her walkie-talkie to ensure it won't transmit anything indecent to her innocent, sleeping little girl. Spill the tea. We're sitting curled up on her IKEA sofa, having eaten our body weight in nachos and switched to red wine. Tabby is out cold next door, so this is our window to have a good old gossip. Marlowe and I have been best friends since we met in the 6th form at Cheltenham Ladies' College, to which she'd won a full choral scholarship. I assess her with amusement. She's perfectly lovely, a natural blonde thanks to her Dutch mother, and who boasts what Anne Shirley would definitely have deemed an alabaster brow. Honestly, given the crap she eats, it's completely unfair, but given the rest of her life is a steaming pile of horseshit, I'll let her have her great skin and her amazing daughter. On what? I ask innocently. Baden-Baden? Yes, I had a colonic. Yes, it was life-giving. No, I did not befriend or even see Victoria Beckham. She sighs. On the new gig, the new guy. Now I grin. Marlowe Winters, you can't handle the tea and you know it. She screws up her face like she's bracing for impact. I can. You can tell me. I won't freak out. Have you slept with him? You have, I assume. Yes, I've slept with him. Mm-hmm. And how was it? It was excellent. Thanks for asking. Very, very promising. Especially considering the guy used to be a priest. She giggles bashfully. God, it's so weird. You just, I don't know, turn up for dinner and then go upstairs and shag him. Isn't it awkward? You are ridiculous. I wouldn't even get dinner out of them if I went on Tinder. True. And no, it wasn't awkward, because we used the dinner to discuss our expectations. And he is really fucking hot, so I was turned on way before we went upstairs. I pause. I mean, but she's so easy to rile. And then he made me strip and pose naked on a stool, holding my pussy open so he could go down on me. Then he fucked me from behind on the bed. So, 2 orgasms. That's very respectable for a first time, you know. Oh my God. She sets her wineglass down on the floor so she can bury her face in her hands as she drums her socked feet on the floor. That's mortifying. I would literally die. I grab a cushion and swipe her with it. It's not mortifying, and it's not even kinky. I'd say that's a pretty vanilla night. It was hot. We both had a good time. What's the issue? She raises her head, her face stained bright red. She has second-hand embarrassment, and it's adorable and hilarious in equal measure. I just can't imagine it, like standing there and stripping on demand for some guy you don't know from Adam, and then letting him stick all his body parts inside you. That's generally how sex works, babes, I remind her gently. It's been a while for Marlowe. She, who was the best of all the good girls at school, got totally fucking seduced by her professor in her first year of uni. Seduced and knocked up. That'll quash your faith in men just as quickly as it'll quash your career prospects. And once you find out your newborn daughter has a rare congenital heart defect, well, that's the death knell to any kind of social life more exciting than evenings on the sofa with me, or the occasional event I drag her to. It's not her fault she's severely out of practice. It's not her fault she's only slept with 2 or 3 guys. And it's definitely not her fault that she's been dealt blow after blow by the universe. If she were a Bible character, Marlowe would be Job, with smaller paws. I know, she grimaces again. It just sounds so confronting. I reach down and hand her back her glass. Lucky you're not a hooker then. I'll drink to that, she says, and she does. So, you're excited about this gig then? I am, actually. I'm counting down the days until I finish with poor old Steve, in fact. Because it's a new sector, or a new dick. I nearly spit out my wine. Marlowe, you dirty little slut. I am not the dirty little slut in this room.